I get it. The most animated. I know, you're like.
I literally walked.
Most animated entrance.
First time. And I was sore.
That's what
to be with.
Oh, what about when we walked back from Little? To San Diego?
Well, it was good because it wasn't alone.
Okay,
I think it was the first time. I mean, dedicated,
Like really?
real walk,
yeah,
power for 30 minutes. I
Oh,
was so
okay.
enthusiastic. Yeah.
like an exercise. Oh, yeah, we were.
Probably,
Yeah.
Okay.
probably almost, just different. Hold it. Okay.
I'm hiding behind files.
Just looking for. Hey Jeff, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
Great.
Hit the flowers.
I know.
That stays there. Yeah, it hasn't sunk in that this is it.
I know, there's a part of me that's been sort of like, okay, maybe not, I'm like, oh, that's right. Huh?
You know, right? The hardest part is getting.
Is to keep the chair right.
No, he does not get the chair.
Just kicks my dog. Yeah, it's real.
Okay.
It's already a tradition.
You get to take your name tag with you, Jeff.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
yes.
What were you saying?
Just
Had the daughter name tag for
rest of this.
park commissions. Because I was a student park commissioner when I was in high school. I did. It's kind of close.
It seems like it's 5:15 forever.
I know.
I'm staring at this.
It's awesome knowledge.
My brother's 9 years younger than me.
I think that's like more of that.
Who is this? Welcome, sorry. Welcome, it is now 6 p.m. and I'm calling to order this regular board meeting of the Sunnyvale School District Board of Education. This meeting is available in English and Spanish. Would the translator please give instructions on translation services available?
Buenas noches. Se utilizará la función de interpretación de Zoom para soporte en inglés y español. Todos los participantes de esta llamada deben seleccionar su idioma de preferencia, haciendo clic en el idioma correspondiente cuando el anfitrión active la función de interpretación. Dicha función se encuentra en el panel de herramientas en el icono del globo terráqueo. El modo de interpretación para esta reunión será el simultáneo. Gracias por su atención y colaboración. Good evening. The Zoom interpretation feature will be used in this Zoom meeting for English and Spanish support. All participants on this call must select their language of preference by clicking the language when the host turns on the interpretation feature. This is found in the world icon located on your feature panel. Interpretation for this meeting will be conducted simultaneously. Thank you for your attention and collaboration.
Thank you. Please note that a recording is being made at the direction of the board and that the recording may capture sounds of those attending the meeting. I see that all board members are present, so we can begin. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Thank you. I will now read our brief acknowledgement of land and life. Sunnyvale School District is located on the ancestral and unceded land of the Muwekma Ohlone tribe, who have peacefully honored and cared for this land for thousands of years. We recognize that every member of the Sunnyvale community continues to benefit from the occupation and use of this land. We acknowledge our responsibility to learn from the wisdom of the Ohlone people and to consider how we might work to repair injustices and to move forward together in honorable ways. We're on to item 2, the annual organizational meeting of the Board of Education. 2A is recognition for Mr. Jeff Arnett. Thank you. We're going to begin with the Fremont Union High School District, Naomi Nakano Matsumoto.
Good evening. My name is Naomi Nakano Matsumoto, and I was president of the Fremont Union High School District Board till about 2 days ago. But I do have the honor to represent our board and our district to say thank you to Jeff and for all of your many years of dedicated service. We have a resolution here for you. There are many whereases, so I'm not going to read them all out, but I do want to say that, you and I didn't really have a chance to interact, but I wanted to express my gratitude as a parent within the district. My 3 students or children were all graduates of the Sunnyvale School District, and they thrived. They did really well and went on to our Fremont Union High School District and graduated. And so I know that as a school board and administration, that is, you exemplify having built that foundation and a great school district and educational environment for all of our students, not just mine, but I wanted to express my own gratitude for that. So thank you.
Thank you very much too. Thank you for your service as well. My daughter's entering Fremont as well. So.
Thank you so much.
Can I get a picture?
A lot of pictures.
There's a lot up and down there.
Got it.
Thank you. Next, we have Mr. Alex Kobayashi from Senator Josh Becker's office.
Good evening. My name is Alex Kobayashi. I'm here on behalf of State Senator Josh Becker and Assemblymember Mark Berman. They both wanted to thank you for your decade of service, more than decades of service, 12 years here on the board, but as a principal in our schools at Leland, at Prospect, and continuing at Metropolitan Ed. And you've just given decades of service to the students throughout the Bay Area, and we thank you for that. We're sad to lose you and your experience and knowledge, but we are so grateful that you've spent time here with all of us. So I have a resolution here from Senator Becker and Assemblymember Berman. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's not in the background, right? Like you're not
Yeah, it's out. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And next we have Supervisor Otto Lee.
Well, good evening, everybody, and same here to follow up the other very well-deserved commendations. This one I'm bringing from the County of Santa Clara. That's been signed by all board members. I know they didn't read the whereases, but tonight I'm going to read a few of these because it's pretty amazing. Jeff Arnett has served the residents of Sunnyvale School District with distinction with an honor from 2003 to 2022. That's 19 years, Jeff. That's just amazing. And she has been a dedicated and passionate educational leader throughout his tenure at the Sunnyvale School District Board of Education, where he attended 456 board meetings, 456, oversaw 3 bond measures, and supported renovations, modernizations, and improvements at all 10 schools within the district. And I think that in itself is a great grand applause. And being an alumnus of the Sunnyvale School District and holds a deep connection to education right here in Santa Clara County, having also served as assistant principal in Santa Clara County Office of Education, assistant principal in the Campbell Union High School District, and prior to that, he was also the classroom as a social studies teacher in the Tracy Unified School District. So you have also served, in addition to all that, I don't know if we get time to do it, on the Sunnyvale Parks and Rec Commission from 2001 to 2005, currently the principal of Silicon Valley Career Technical Education and Metropolitan Education Districts. You have definitely built a strong legacy towards improvement and quality of education for students in the Sunny Belt and beyond. So, and we here in Santa Clara County has this tradition of recognizing those individuals who make a significant difference in our community, and you definitely fit the bill, Jeff. Congratulations. And one quick story, when Jeff was running for school board, I was very curious. I'm like, are you kidding me? Your profession you put down on your ballot statement is bartender, and you think you can get elected? And he got elected, so there you go.
Don't have my stuff in the background.
Great job. Oh, perfect.
Well, and next up, recognizing Jeff is me. On behalf of the Santa Clara County School Boards Association, I'm currently president of this organization, and it's 31 districts, trustees from 31 districts, and also the County Office of Education, and also Metro Ed, where Jeff works. And we're just so grateful to you for all of your service, for 19 years of service. And so there's just a certificate of recognition from the County School Boards Association. And we're really excited that we're gonna work with you at Metro Ed for the Hoffman Awards in just a couple of months. And it was great to see you, and we hope we can continue to work with you and celebrate all the wonderful things you're doing down there. But so anyway, let's go take a picture. Wait, can't hear Michelle still it?
Whatever, just stand in front of it.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. You doing okay? Wait, why don't you stay there? Because now Isabel's gonna come and present something to you. So.
Well, this one is, of course, in recognition of all your years of incredible service for the district, and this is from the district Sunnyvale School District.
Jeff, you can stay there. I'm going. We have one more little thing to present to you.
Okay, so I just have like a bag of goodies for you. Okay, just a bag of goodies, but I also just wanted to share just kind of a few things that I've appreciated about you. So I think that you do a really good job, you have done a good job of building leadership among us new board members, like from like first me getting on, you just did a lot to put me in places to help build my leadership, and then I've seen you do that with other board members. So I really appreciate that. And a part of that, I think also you're good at helping like build our confidence, like you got this, you can do it. And just I think that's something that you have done for all of us that has been really great. We talked this before, I think on Friday too, but like you always have great wisdom, you know, like some of us women on it like to talk a lot. But whenever you share something, there's always some great wisdom there. And I think part of it is who you are as a person, but then also your education background and the years of service and the different areas that you've served. And so that's a piece that I think we'll all miss, but I will definitely miss is that wisdom that you share with us. And then just like the last piece, like I'll miss our conversations in the parking lot. We've had a lot of great after our meetings, just chatting about life and various things. And so I will miss those chats. Maybe sometime you could just come at the end of a meeting and we could just chat. So just a bag of goodies from all of us.
And the flowers.
Oh yes, sorry. I got some more stuff down here. A bag of goodies and some flowers. But I want to give you up. Thank you.
He was here, so.
Michelle, take a picture right now.
Yeah.
Maybe Jesus.
Jesus? Yes, of course, yeah. So we all have something to say to you. I also have something personal to say to you, but Nancy, go ahead.
Yes. I got a chance to know you before you came on the board as a representative locally for Senator Al Alquist. And so I appreciate that you've been engaged in our community, not only as a stakeholder student, but in your professional life as well. Sometimes you'll never know the value of a moment until it becomes a memory. We've had more than 19 years worth of moments with you at the board table. The one thing that is special in your role as a board member is that of giving direction. So even though you're leaving us physically at this particular point in time, there's a lot that you have put into policy direction that is going to provide us good moments of continuing wisdoms into the future. So I look forward, and I hope that you do too, to see all of those moments of wisdom coming forward in the future success of our district. And we share that with you. Thank you, Jeff. Gonna miss you.
Well, yes, that definitely you have very good temper, you have very good way to say the things. You always maintain the peace and have a lot of wisdom to give to everybody, and we're gonna miss that, and we're gonna miss you. And all the recommendations you give from your own personal life as an educator, as an administrator, and as a principal has been invaluable. And I really hope that we can see you more often, every once in a while at least, and know amazing things that you're doing. And we were so happy to see you at Metroid and how you are shining there and the amazing things you're doing now and you keep doing forever, because you are really a public servant and a person who has the love of kids. From everything you say when we have meetings, you can always feel that you care for every child that can come across you and every kid, and you do it with your full heart and with the full interest of what is to come. So we really appreciate that, and that comes through every time we talk with you. Thank you.
And Jeff, I just want to say that I am going to really miss working with you. I hope we can stay in touch, because you're so inspiring, you're so caring, you're very knowledgeable. So I'm very lucky to have worked with you. So thank you.
Oh, sure. And then just a few comments. So first of all, I came to this district 14 years ago, and it's a difficult decision to switch districts. I was in a good position in a nice district, and I made a decision based on the stability and forward thinkingness, that's a word, of Sunnyvale School District. And Jeff, you represented that. Everyone on the board plays a different role, but in terms of stability and wisdom, I think that's really, you have a cornerstone on that. Everything that Supervisor Lee said, I would certainly second, and all the others about the contributions that you've made so many over the years. But to me, and maybe it's just because of the recency of it, but to me, none as significant or long-lasting as the trustee areas. The impact of that is not just in our school district, it's in our region, in our city, and I think it's going to have make a long-lasting difference for the citizens of North Sunnyvale, and it's going to make a difference in our community greatly. So thank you for that, and I certainly hope we continue to get to see each other too, because we're going to miss you here.
Feel free if you want to. No pressure.
I was gonna say, this is I want to thank everyone. I mean, this is lot more emotional, I thought. A lot of recognition. I think when I came on the board, I had some ideas of the change I wanted. And I think what I've respected about the board, what I like about the board is it's changed me and improved me. I mean, for the people I work with, the board members and staff, I've modeled so much of my own ambition after what I see every day from the teachers to cabinet. And I love the conversation that I've had with the board members. I mean, even the disagreements, I just really enjoyed the fact that we can disagree and still work with each other. You don't find that every day. And I think we're really lucky to have it on this board. Learned so much about myself in 19 years, 19, 20. Sometimes it feels like 100. Part of which is that I know that I'm probably more of an introvert than I ever thought, and this has been quite taxing. So I just want to appreciate everybody here. I mean, my ideas were about equity before I really understood that term, and I think this board has surpassed that, and I want to encourage that because, like I said, I had these ideas of what I wanted to do to change. And what the board quickly taught me was always focus every decision you make around students. They're the, like we've said it before, they're the constituency that doesn't get to vote for us. So I'm gonna miss everybody. I'm a phone call away, I'm a text away. Please do stay in contact with me. I will miss you. Not the meetings on Thursday night. So.
Yay. Well, we're gonna look forward now, and County Supervisor Otto Lee is going to administer the oath of office to those of us who are newly elected. We're gonna start with Eileen Lay, who is our new board member, and we're very excited. So Eileen, would you come on up, and Supervisor Lee will swear you in.
We'll do right here?
Sure.
Okay, that works.
It's Aaliyah is the boss.
I'll make sure the camera and everything is good, so you could be seen on
Where's
the.
the camera?
On,
My dad has good.
okay, good. Well, also, I want to make sure they
Oh, yeah, you're
can
on
see.
Zoom.
Oh, I see.
On
Oh,
Zoom too.
okay, right,
So make it so
okay.
Zoom sees you. So the Zoom camera is where?
Right in front of you.
Right in front of me, okay, good, so.
Oh, it's the bar. Okay,
That's all,
we got it.
that's all,
We
make
got
sure,
it.
okay, so then.
Okay.
We're good to go.
You
All
have
right.
it too?
Yep, I got,
Okay.
so I'll make it a little easier. You can hear me well enough.
Do I need my full legal name?
We don't need to.
That's
So you get to stick with me. All right, so ready? All right,
I,
state your name,
Nilang Eileen Lay,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
or affirm
or affirm
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well
and that I will well
and faithfully discharge the duties
and faithfully discharge the duties
upon which I'm about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
One more.
Cheese.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, now Supervisor Lee is going to administer the oath of office to Michelle and I.
Okay. See this? Very well. Good. All right. Technically, you're supposed to raise your right hand, so let's do it right this time. Okay, let's do it. Okay. I state your name.
I,
I,
Bridget
Michelle
Watson,
Maginot,
Do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith
that I
that I
will
will
bear
bear true faith
and allegiance
and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well
and that I will well
and faithfully discharge
and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which
the duties upon which
I'm about to enter.
I'm about to enter.
Again.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, we can do one together too.
one together.
Oh, why not?
Okay.
Okay, you can-
Are you making funny faces back there?
Thank you.
One, two, three. We'll do one more. Right. One, two, three.
Thank you, Ali.
Thank you.
Michelle. I just want to say only Mike, but so the audience can hear me. So first of all, huge congratulations for all three of you, and especially for the two of you who was willing to serve again, to dedicate 84 more years. And I know Jeff obviously is a hard act to follow, doing 19 years. But I tell people, you don't use the word politician lightly, because we're really public servants. And one thing for sure is you're not doing this for money. Because if you are, you're really bad at math. But again, thank you so much for willing to serve, and Eileen, congratulations. And now we actually have a full 5-woman board, right?
Yeah.
Dr. Gallagher, yes. So this is truly exciting. Oh, very well, super. Thank you so much again. And it's truly my honor to be here to do the honor to swear all of you in. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your service. So we're gonna take a short recess.
Can I say something?
Of course.
I think it's gotta be now,
Yeah, now it's.
only the Brown Act.
I have some remarks. I'd like to thank my parents and my brother for being here. At 5:30, my mom called me and worried that she would be late and assured me she would drive as fast as she could. I don't want to know how fast that was. When I was a kid, I remember asking my dad why school was so important, and he told me that when he left Vietnam as a refugee, all he could take with him was what he knew, that an education is the most important gift that we can give to children because it's the only thing that can't be taken away. I need to thank my endlessly supportive husband. I had a really mushy paragraph here, but he told me to cut it. I want to thank my son, who isn't here because he's 8 and he said it would be boring, but he's 8 and everything that doesn't have to do with Star Wars or Spider-Man is boring, so I don't take that personally. He's an amazing child and he feels the nature of injustice so deeply that sometimes it physically pains him. A lot of people are socialized to be quiet and let things go, to smooth things over for the people around them, and he resists that with every fiber of his being. If there is a problem, he will let you know and he will make it your problem. He is a tireless advocate against injustice, and I don't know if he learned that from me or if I'm learning that from him, but it's something I strive towards too, and I want to be like him when I grow up. Lastly, I would like to thank the constituents of my trustee area. They didn't get to vote for me this time, but I know they would have, and I'll give them a chance in a later election. I moved to this area 8 years ago and started my son at Lakewood Elementary in 2019, right before the pandemic. There's too many people at his school that I want to thank to call out everybody, but I'm going to call out Grandma Alice anyway. She's been living in Lakewood Village for decades, long enough where she still remembers being forced to the back of the bus as a Latina woman. and has been, until COVID, volunteering almost daily in Ms. Smith's transitional kindergarten class. And the thing that you need to know about transitional kindergartners is that they are adorable and feral. A lot of them have never actually been in a classroom before and they have no idea what to do or expect. And Grandma Alice came and helped them out anyway, almost every day for years without being paid. And for a generation of children in Lakewood Village, she is grandma. When I first came to Lakewood Elementary, I remember immediately noticing how many people there were helpers in the community, people who just very quietly help out, not for recognition or even thanks, but because they love the children and they want to help. They are just such a huge source of inspiration for me, and I'm very proud to be representing that community.
Thank you. We're gonna take a short 10 to 15-minute recess to just have some refreshments and celebrate. And we'll stay 15 minutes, so right around 6:45. Thank you.
Obviously, you want still help.
So we're like,
Thank you.
thank you.
Like I'm moving out?
Right. I'm glad you had an extra set of hands.
Yeah.
Take care, take care, John.
Is that your copy got from
Okay, welcome back. It is 6:48 and we're back from recess. We're on to item 3, approval of the agenda. If there's any member of the public who would like to speak on just the approval of the agenda, please let us know. You can use the raised hand feature if you are online. Okay, seeing none, board, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I move approval of tonight's agenda as listed.
I second.
Thank you. Any discussion of the agenda? Okay, seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of approving the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
The chair votes aye, and with that, the motion passes. We are on to item 4.
Actually,
Oh,
we're out of order, so we should go to 2C, annual election of board officers and committee representatives.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay.
That's my fault.
Oh, okay. See, I was just a little confused. I did just some cutting and pasting myself, so
Okay.
I apologize. Okay, now we're back up to item 2C, the annual election. Oh, do we wanna? Okay, sorry.
What if we do the debrief for 10 minutes and then come back to TC?
Sure, is that where we did?
Okay,
I
and
don't
then
really care which way we do it.
after, okay, sorry. So do we wanna modify the agenda?
Okay.
Do you
We
wanna
can just leave it, what do you guys want to do?
Yeah, we can do that.
Let's just leave it, take your time talking about it.
Okay, so we're on to item 2C, annual election of board officers and committee representatives.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
I would like to let the public know that I need to leave the meeting. I am in Florida and I need to, my doctors advised me that I need to sleep a little bit earlier than what I've been getting to my bedtime. So I'm going to be leaving the meeting at this particular point in time. And I'll let you continue on through the agenda for the night meeting, okay?
thank you.
Good night, Nancy.
Nancy.
Bye,
Merry
thank you
Christmas.
so much.
Oh, yeah, Merry Christmas. Have a great season.
Okay, so the first office that we have is, did you want to say something about 2C?
Nope, I think
Okay.
you're.
All right,
going
the
along.
first office that we have is for board president. At our last meeting, we discussed Isabel Hubis Flemmerich.
Hey, do you want to do public comment now or do you want to later?
Sure, we could do public. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, is there any public comment for the board organization for this item? Please use your raised hand feature now. Okay, see none. Okay, seeing none. At our last meeting, we discussed that Isabel Hubis Flemmerich was nominated for board president. Do we have a motion? We do a motion.
We're
Let me just
doing
clarify
each
the
one
process.
separately?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we do a motion, a second
You can't do the
discussion,
slate all together.
If someone makes a motion, that way you can.
but we don't have, there's some of these we need to discuss. There's a bunch,
Okay.
so let's just
Okay.
go. Okay, so do I have a motion for Isabel as board president?
I move approval of Isabel as board president. Is it like that? Okay.
Eileen, do you want a second?
A second.
Okay, thanks. Okay, any discussion? Do you accept Isabel?
I accept.
Okay, super. Is it, Jesus, is this a roll call vote?
Yes.
Okay.
Eileen Lee,
Aye.
Michelle Maginot,
Aye.
Nancy Newkirk, Bridget Watson,
Aye.
Isabel Hugus Plummer,
Aye.
4-0.
Okay, for board vice president, for Michelle.
Congrats.
Yeah, okay, Isabel. Thank you. So for board vice president for 2023, Michelle Maginot, do we have a motion?
I move to approve Michelle Maginot for vice president.
I'll second. It's a roll call vote.
Eileen Lee.
Aye.
Michelle Maginot,
Aye.
Nancy Newkirk, Bridget Watson,
Aye.
Isabel Hugus Plummer,
Aye.
4-0.
Okay, for board clerk, I think that we did not just, it's either Eileen or me, I don't know. Eileen, do you want to take on board clerk this year?
Yes.
Yes, great, okay. So I move that we nominate Eileen Lay for board clerk.
I'll second.
Oh, no. There's nothing.
Okay, roll call, any discussion? Sounds fun? Okay, super. I think it's really great because you'll go into packet review, or like if Michelle or if Isabel or Michelle are not available for something, then you would be the spokesperson, and it's very unlikely you would have to run the meeting. There's some stuff to sign. It'll be fine. Okay. Okay, just FYI. Okay, that's it. Any other discussion? All right, let's vote.
Michelle Maginot,
Aye.
Nancy Newkirk, Bridget Watson,
Aye.
Isabel Hugus Plummer,
Aye.
Eileen Lee.
Aye. Okay, the next one we're voting on is representative of the Santa Clara County School Boards Association. Last time we talked about me being the official voter and Nancy being alternate. Is that still, if that's okay with someone, could someone make a motion?
Yeah, I move for Bridget Watson to be the representative for the Santa Clara County Committee, and for Nancy to be the alternate.
Second,
I'll second.
okay. Is this roll call? Any discussion? No, we're good.
Eileen Lee.
Aye.
Michelle Maginot,
Aye.
Nancy Newkirk, Bridget Watson,
Aye.
Isabel Hugus Plummer,
Aye.
4-0.
Last meeting, we talked about Michelle Maginot being the representative to the Santa Clara County Committee on School District Reorganization. Can I get a motion?
I move to postulate Michelle Maginot for representative of the Santa Clara Committee of School District Organization.
I'll second. Any discussion? No, okay. We're ready to vote. Aye.
Michelle Maginot,
Aye.
Nancy Newkirk, Bridget Watson,
Aye.
Isabel Hugus Plummer,
Aye.
4-0.
The next one is liaison to the district's wellness committee and alternate. We discussed putting me on there as the wellness committee person, and I think Nancy wanted to be alternate, but I can't remember. Does that sound right? I think that's what I remember. Do we wanna propose her for that? Okay. So I'll move that I will be on the district's wellness committee and that Nancy would be the alternate. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I'll forward you the email for next week.
Okay, super.
Yes.
Okay. We're ready to vote.
Eileen Lee.
Aye.
Michelle Maginot,
Aye.
Nancy Newkirk, Bridget Watson,
Aye.
Isabel Hugus Plummer,
Aye.
4-0.
Liaisons to the district's facilities and finance committee, we propose Isabel and Eileen. Can I get a motion?
I move that we approve Isabel and Eileen to the district's facilities and finance committee.
I second.
Any discussion?
Should I turn on that?
Yes, you should.
Okay.
That helps the interpreter.
Okay.
And any discussion on this? It's gonna be great for you to hear about all the cool projects that are going on and realizing that like some things like doors are really expensive in the district, right? Like, that's what I learned my first time. Okay, so we're ready to vote.
Eileen Lee.
Aye.
Michelle Magino.
Aye.
Nancy Newkirk. Rachel Watson.
Aye.
Isabel Cuevas Conroy.
Aye.
Oral.
Okay, the next one is liaisons to the Fremont Union High School District Board of Education. I just wanted to be clear, this is new, and the idea would be this would just be information exchange only, so there's no Brown Act reporting required, because if it's just information, it's okay, we're not making a decision, we're not making a recommendation, nothing has to be publicized, it's just opening up a channel of communication. If Isabel and I had talked about this and we brought this forward as a way to kind of formalize the intention of like opening up that line of information exchange. And if we need to have ad hoc committees to work on different things like deciding what kind of information we want to get from the high school district or how we're going to do that, we can have an ad hoc committee and that can be decided separately. This is just opening up a 2x2 channel for them. So, I don't know.
So 2 questions. One,
Yeah.
my understanding is when there's a 2x2 that you have to make that Brown Act, but I could be wrong. And then my second piece is I would just like to get a little more understanding of what your vision is, like what this would look like,
Sure.
like in practice or whatever. So that's my 2 kind of question and.
Well, I think that, you know, Isabel and I started already doing this with Rosa and Naomi informally so that it wouldn't be a Brown Act violation. We were just kind of talking about issues because we weren't involving any other members of the board in that chain of communication. So this would be a way of taking just the information exchange, like having a set meeting where we're talking about like we could say, hey, our Juntos kids are, you know, getting ready to graduate, and they could say like, yes, we had the wonderful presentation, and we just kind of report back and say, yeah, they have an understanding of what we're doing, and we have an understanding of what they're doing, or oh, it's getting busy there, you know, just to kind of solidify or report back for like what are the issues that they're talking about in their board meetings on Tuesdays at 4:00, you know, when you know what I mean? It's just getting an idea of like
So
what.
would this liaison go to all our board meetings?
No, I think it would just be like a 2x2 debriefing. That's how we envisioned it, but
So like a monthly, a quarterly, or you haven't really
Yeah, maybe-
fleshed that out yet?
Probably monthly.
probably monthly, I would think.
So does this mean that the ones who are not on this committee should not talk to those 2 members of Fremont?
That's what I think, that's why I think about it has to become a Brown Act thing and then we have to be careful.
But I think it's more informational.
Yeah, well, I'll kick it to
Yeah,
Mike.
so, yeah, it might be, I'm listening to this and I think we're probably on a gray area, which is a little bit dangerous. So it might be better just to not actually vote on this and to, for the board, our board to continually communicate about who's talking to who.
Yeah,
So that way, you know, I think that the intent is, I think we all agree with the intent. That it's really good that we have good communication between the 2 boards. But I think what we need to do is make sure that our board, each of you knows what each of you is doing, so that way. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So it could be just like when you report out board member activities, you could say like, hey, Isabel and I talked to Naomi and Rosa. It'd be more informal.
So when we have our governance development meeting, maybe that could be a topic where we talk about interests, you know? Because usually we talk about study sessions that we want to have, maybe we could talk about interest in connecting things. Okay. If that's an interest of the board. All right, so we're not voting on that one. Okay, District English Learner Advisory Committee, DLAC. And then this was, I know Isabel, you wanted to continue, and I had in my notes either Eileen or me. Is that, I'm interested, but I don't want to take away from what you want to do. So if DLAC is something you're very interested in as a new board member, then I'm okay with you doing that. Because I'm still planning on, I am not worried about that at all. Like,
Yeah, I am interested in that.
okay. So can we get a motion for Isabel and Eileen to be appointed as our District English Learner Advisory Committee liaisons?
I move that we appoint Isabel and Eileen to the District English Learner Advisory Committee. I guess not to the committee, it's like representatives.
Liaison or?
Yeah, they're not actually on the committee.
Yes.
Liaisons.
And then, okay, so any discussion about that?
I'll forward you the email about Monday.
What?
Who said?
Oh, someone
Oh.
else seconded, yeah.
Oh, second, I'll second.
Thanks, thanks, thanks.
Good job. You did it. Okay, any discussion?
I'll forward you there is a meeting on Monday evening and forward you the information.
Okay, I think we're ready to vote.
Eileen Lee,
Aye.
Michelle Majma,
Aye.
Nancy Newkirk, Bridget Watson,
Aye.
Isabel Hugus Monroe.
Aye.
Laura.
Okay, the next one is liaison to the Sunnyvale Challenge Team. I really want to do this. And you want to do it as well. But anybody can go to the meetings. We're not voting or deciding anything there. It's just someone who would go and report back. So everyone can go to the challenge meeting. It's nothing we're ever going to vote on. It's just learning about what's going on in the community. But since I'm planning on going, I'm willing to report back. Okay,
And I would think it would be whoever you select is the one is make sure that someone goes.
yeah,
So two people can go.
but no, it can't be where nobody's going.
We want to.
Unless it's during AEC, in which case none of us will probably.
I'm fine with being you, but I have been asking probably since the first year on the board to get on the email list.
Well, if you wanna
I have to go
be
there
if you
and
wanna
ask
be the
the question.
designated person and go every time, that's
I'm not
totally
being
fine, I
necessarily
can
like-
still
No,
go.
I said I'm by the person, I just wanna get on that email list.
I don't know how you're not, but I can work on that for you.
And that's how people say I'm gonna get you on and then no one.
I know, and I asked like 3 times and people say I was, so when we went.
You just, it's harder to get yourself on the list.
When we went there last year to talk about
Yeah.
the traffic cops or whatever, I just
You made sure you
made
got
him,
yourself on the
like, I
list.
told the chief, like, hey, I'm not in this list. And so-
Yeah, so maybe Isabel, can you
there.
get me on the list, sounds like you know how to do it.
Yeah, with the chief of the police.
Yes,
That's
directly,
exactly what
I
needs to
complained to him.
Okay,
And he
so-
made it happen.
So,
No, I'm good with you doing it, I just wanna be on that list, cause I don't know, I don't think I can go regularly, but.
okay, one of us will
Yeah.
work that out next time. Okay, so,
So I make a motion?
that'd be great.
I move that we appoint Bridget as liaison to the Sunnyvale Challenge.
I second.
Discussion. Can we add that where Isabella's on there? We can have more than one, right? Or?
Well, I think it's just like,
Liaisons
It's alternate.
Liaisons
Alternate.
usually have like one person who's
Yeah,
like
okay.
responsible.
So can you modify it so that Isabel's the alternate?
I make an amendment to have Isabel be the alternate.
I will second.
All right, any other discussion? No, we're ready to vote.
Eileen Lee,
Aye.
Michelle Majma,
Aye.
Nancy Newkirk, Bridget Watson,
Aye.
Isabel Hugus Monroe.
Aye.
Laura.
Okay, this is liaison to the Sunnyvale Education Foundation. And this is basically just ratifying my term is up at the end of this year. You just have to agree that I'm still the person. Can I get a motion for the liaison to the Sunnyvale Education Foundation?
I will motion that Bridget is the liaison to the Sunnyvale Education Foundation.
Yeah, I second.
Okay, any,
Before we vote, I just have a question, because I thought you had been, before you were on the board, so are you stepping away?
I'm still the vice president of the foundation.
Okay. So I feel like in the past conversation, we had decided we didn't want to like read stuff away so you could go on, right? So I don't remember why.
Her term was up. So she was on for 2 years.
Okay, so
when
wasn't
her
it we felt
term
like there
was
should
up,
only be one board member?
I was going
there? Okay.
for 6 months before, I went to like 6 meetings before I got on the board. And that's how they got to know me, to decide that they would be willing to appoint me. Instead of just being like, who is this person?
Okay, so it wasn't that we decided just one person, it just happened to be timing, she was like
Yes,
unused or doing.
Yeah. So, and I'm happy for someone else to go for that, because I know it's like people really want to get close to the parents at the Ed Foundation, you know, it's district-wide visibility, like I know that it's a coveted spot, so I'd be willing to.
No, I
step
know,
away
I just
from
didn't
that.
know if I can remember, I just thought we had discussions, so moved. And Mike, you don't see like there's no concern from your perspective, right? If there's 3 of us, that would be the concern.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, I guess.
It's probably better if it was just one eventually, but that's gonna
Yeah.
work itself out.
I would say, yeah, so the only thing is just, right, like so then just the 2 of you have to be careful who you guys talk to. You probably can't talk to other board members about some topics that they get discussed there. So you 2 just need to be a little bit careful.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, mostly what they're talking about is making donations to the district and like what's going on for, like it's,
Okay, that's all.
thank you. Okay, we ready to vote? Okay, I think we're ready to vote.
Eileen Lee.
Aye.
Michelle Magino,
Aye.
Nancy Newkirk, Bridget Watson,
Aye.
Isabel Kubas-Hunter,
Aye.
Laurel.
Okay, the next one is liaisons to the Sunnyvale and House Collaborative. I'm wondering if this is another one we should not be appointing to, if it's an open meeting, it's not, because it's with the county, it's run by the county. So the next one, the following one where it's the city council and neighborhood associations, as long as it's just neighborhood association, it's fine. But I think because the Sunnyvale Unhoused Collaborative is run by the county, I think
So
that
maybe
we
we
should
shouldn't.
not.
Okay.
So I'm gonna recommend that we not, Isabel and I.
Not make an official.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can still keep going, but we're not
And
gonna.
report back like you have,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
perfect.
Okay, but the next one to look at would be liaisons to, it's right now it says Sunnyvale City Council and neighborhood associations to combat hate. And I would recommend that we would make a motion amending that to neighborhood associations only. And the idea for this is that this would be someone who would work with the neighborhood associations and lead and like where it goes to all the associations. So when the city is doing something like with the neighborhood associations that's combating hate, like there was a hate incident in Lakewood Park recently. And immediately Eileen and I were Eileen was engaging with the neighborhood and she told me about it. And then I reached out to Sylvia Leong, who's the new at-large Asian American Pacific Islander rep for CSBA. She's also a Cupertino board member. And then Naomi had reached out to us. And so we started talking about it. And the more we were talking about it, it seems like there's probably going to be activities with the neighborhood associations against hate. Eileen, do you want to talk a little bit about what we were talking about with them as the neighborhood association conversation we had the other night?
Within, I'm not sure what to say, or how much to say.
But-
We're just kind of report on our conversation. I was just thinking like,
I think the other board members just want to know like what this
Like
role
where
would
this
be,
came about, yeah.
what the role would be.
So I think 2 weeks ago, there was a man who was exercising in Lakewood Park and he was assaulted and told to go back to his country. this was something that I saw on Nextdoor through because I live in that area and it came up on my Nextdoor. And because I already knew some of the people within the Lakewood Village Neighborhood Association, I reached out to them to learn more about it. And I texted Bridget to see if there was anything that we as school board members could do or to raise either the awareness or to find assistance for this man. Bridget was able to get a number of people together to discuss it, and we have been discussing next steps about what we can do, both to support the community and to support the victim. It's been very valuable, and I think having this role and having the school board in particular be part of this role, in this role is very important. I feel like it's something that we would maybe do naturally because these are our communities and sometimes bad things happen within our communities and we want to do something about them. But I would appreciate having the role formalized so that it's something that continues, if it's an ongoing process, that we can continue to address it.
And I looked it up and it seems like there's not a Brown Act concern because it would be a liaison to the neighborhood associations and those are open to anyone. It's an exception for the Brown Act. As long as board members aren't all there sharing their opinions about things, right? Like all together at one specific meeting. But I think it'd be valuable because, just walking around, just driving by SMS, like after that incident, I saw an elderly gentleman who was walking to exercise and he was carrying what looked like a club, walking around. And I know that, there have been attacks in the Cherry Chase and Cumberland area and, against Southeast Asian families, elderly people, or moms with strollers. So I just think that even though this particular Lakewood Neighborhood Association is dealing with that, Cherry Chase Neighborhood Association had called a meeting with the chief of public safety several months ago. And I just think it would be appropriate to have a school board person in there in case they want to use a facility or they, there's going to be a meeting or how can we support, the families or the kids in some other way,
So this liaison goes, I don't know how often, because I know Rita Reed has I know she used to do it quarterly, not that often, so this liaison would go to those meetings. And then also as things arise, they might be like a liaison, like in an incident like this, they would be a liaison. Is that the vision or what's the vision of what the role was?
I think the vision is that they're the point person for working with those neighborhood associations as those incidences arise,
Okay.
or as there's I think the next step that Lakewood wants to do is to do a listening session, with the community because they feel, and then maybe do some bystander training, right? And so if that's something that community wants to do, maybe that would be something that the liaison could bring back to the board and inform us and say, or inform Mike and say is there a way the district could help? This is what what I'm hearing it was from the neighborhood associations and
Yeah.
they could be the point person
So
for
where
that.
does the liaison, essentially Reed would then send a message out to all the neighborhood associations and say, hey, here is the Sunnyvale School District Board Member Liaison, please reach out to them if there's anything we can do to assist.
Yeah.
And then stuff will happen based
Yeah.
on that. Okay.
Sadly.
It could be stuff for good.
Yes.
It doesn't have to just be responding to negative.
No, I know, but and it could be prevention and other things as well. There's a lot of areas on this, people from the neighborhood association were saying in the meeting, they would like bystander training, what to do if they see it happen, prevention, and then also sort of a sounding board about feeling safe and feeling served. So anyway,
I think I have the feeling you're ready for a motion.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I started actually, I had to link Mike because
Yeah.
I wanted to say something. So is one of does one of the two of you, I'm assuming it's one of the two of you who wants to do it?
Well, I think Eileen wants to do it and I would like to be a second, if that's okay.
So.
Or you could be a
Why,
second.
well, no, why is there a second though?
Like as an
Seems like there
alternate,
should just-
if she can't
Why would
go.
there be an alternate? So in my mind, it seems like this is a one person thing, and then like, right, like if there's something like, doesn't mean she can't work for anybody.
Yes,
Right, like she could reach out
yeah,
to you.
because she might need to talk to different people. So
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead. Eileen, it's you. You good with that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, I'd like to move that Eileen be our liaison to the Sunnyvale Neighborhood Associations to combat hate.
I'll second. And then one just thought, right, this will evolve, right, because this is a new thing, but like one just brainstorming, just thinking about, right, like, because we're now in trustee areas too, right, like, so, you know, say someone in Cherry Chase neighborhood, you know, wants to like do something like a positive before something bad happens, right, and so she hears about it, she would connect with you,
Right.
or if something happens, you know, like, she also can reach out to board
That's
members
right.
based on
That's
the
right.
neighborhood associations and where we're at.
That's right.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, we're ready to vote,
Eileen Lee,
I think. Aye.
Michelle Najman,
Aye.
Nancy Newkirk, Rachel Watson,
Aye.
Isabel Cuthbert Thunner,
Aye.
well,
Yay, okay, so we got through the whole agenda item, very exciting. Okay, so we are, no?
Was there a education commission, house collaborative?
No,
we decided.
No, we're not gonna do that one, because I think because it's run by the county,
Okay.
So we'll just keep doing what you're doing.
we'll just
It's not
report
official.
back, but we won't officially appoint someone. And I just learned that, because Nancy mentioned it in the board meeting, I looked it up. In the packet review. Okay, so we are on to item 4, study session, debrief of CSBA annual education conference. Dr. Gallagher.
Yes, so we don't have a formal organization for this discussion, but I think the recommendation was just to share 1 or 2 or 3 highlights of the event, just to get the conversation started. Does that sound work for everyone?
Yeah, but how much time do we want to allow? Do we want to allow 20 minutes? Or,
I say let's try to do it in 15 till latest, if we go 20, then go 20.
okay, that would give, yeah, I think 20 would give 4 minutes each. Okay.
Mike, you wanna start with your highlight?
What's my highlight? I think, well, one big highlight was, and I mean this sincerely, just having Eileen there and starting to build relationships. One of the real highlights always of that conference is the team building that we do. So executive cabinet comes, the board comes, and that's really huge. And then the other thing for me was, it was the first in-person, during AEC, they had the Schools for Sound Finance board meeting. It was the first in-person board meeting of that group. So I was able to meet some of my colleagues on that board for the first time. And then they nominated me for an officer role. So
what are you gonna be this year?
I'm the vice president for the central region. So there's 3 regions in the state.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's good. Those are my highlights.
Great. Isabel?
Well, I like, of course, the sharing with the cabinet and the board was, I already share a lot with Elaine before that, but we did even more. That was also great. I like the speakers, the key speakers were, were very, very impressive. And it really inspired me, the guy from Harvard. And I think we all should read his book. It was about, and I'm gonna buy his book. And I think that will be a great thing to do and see how much we can learn from that. I just pretty much want to copy it. If we can do, like, we can have like winners debating for all our middle schooler. That would be amazing. I don't know, what can we do with that? I like seeing other districts, how they have very impressive programs and things that are going around, and I'm very excited about that. And I like really want to know how can we learn more about pick ideas for everywhere and learn more and try to absorb as much as we can. Like we're kids that are like sponge that absorb things, so we can do that. And see what is valuable and adoptable for us. That would be great. We also share with other boards and other members. We had the experience with the CLSBA, the Latinos, California Latinos School Board Association, and we share with them one day, and then we share with ISMA, the Asian and Pacific Islanders. That was also very, very interesting conversations and very interesting keynote speakers. Actually, it was very inspiring also what Elaine said in that lunch about not forgetting our other refugees, like the Afghans that are refugees now in their area. Actually the keynote was, I'm still thinking about him and the Harvard program, like, he said there is like free information everywhere, like, okay, what are we not doing? Like, how can we do that? And get our kids to be like worldwide winners in speech and debate, and that would be awesome. But yes, a lot of learning. Those are very intense days. Oh, and then I did the president board, the board president seminar. That was also very interesting. But yes, it's a very intense experience with a lot of learning, a lot of sharing, a lot of meeting other peoples and connecting with other boards to see everybody's perspective and everybody's point of view and how they are trying to solve the same problems that we are trying to solve from their own perspective. So that was good.
Eileen?
So what I said at the APISMA breakfast was that I was encouraging APISMA to include West Asians in the discussion and the coalition of Asians, because I feel like oftentimes when people say Asians, they picture a certain kind of person, and that certain kind of person is often East Asian. And I wanted to ensure that other groups were included within the discussion. I learned so many things and I met so many people, and I'm still processing like all of it. I feel like I learned a lot of top level stuff that I really need to dive deeper into. There was a lot of talk about ethnic studies curriculum that was really hammered home during both the there was a panel from APISMA from the founder of StopAPIHate.org, and he was talking about the ethnic studies curriculum as a means to combat hate with education from an early age. This was also talked about at the Latino School Board Association lunch about ethnic studies curriculum being adopted in various districts. So that was things I need to learn more about and read more about. Something I found really cool was the last panel that I went to, which was a thing that they're doing in Morgan Hill, where they are growing all the lettuce for their school district in a vertical farm container. And so they have like this one container. Yeah, and it's so cool. They grow all their lettuce in there, and then their kids have fresh lettuce to eat, and they're able to, after the initial investment, it basically pays for itself with like $300 extra each month. It's run on solar panels. It's completely green.
It's like way less water than lettuce normally be.
And it's way less water than lettuce would usually be, and because it's contained, it's like not affected by heat shifts, which I think Morgan Hill feels more keenly than we do. And that was just really cool. One of the other things that they were talking about was getting rid of those little plastic packet of spork that you get in a school cafeteria, because that's wasteful, and why do we need that? And I've been thinking about that a lot too. Yeah, I think those were my highlights.
Thanks. Okay, Michelle?
I think like Isabel, that Brandon Fleming was just phenomenal. Like he was like so fantastic. I mean, like his other good speakers, but probably one of the best It was such a great way to start it, and I've been like I'm not gonna share the story because it takes too long, but he has a phenomenal story, which he's talking about the students. So I'll give a very quick summary, tease you guys off so you can learn more. He essentially for 5 years in a row got 25 kids from inner city Atlanta, Georgia, trained them in like philosophy, debate, all this stuff. No one thought like they're not gonna succeed. They have won 5 years in a row straight. First year when they won, they were like, just a fluke. Second year, they went undefeated. No team, and this is like teams from around the world. No team had ever been undefeated. So a group of 25 Black kids from inner city Georgia are winning this like renowned worldwide competition for 5 years straight. So I have like probably told like the longer version of that story, I've probably told like 5 different people so far. Like I just think it's such a phenomenal story to prove the point that it's about access and opportunity, right? It doesn't matter your zip code, it doesn't matter your color, it doesn't even matter like where you come from. Like it matters if you're given opportunity and access. And I just think it's a phenomenal example of when you get the opportunity and when you get the access, every student will succeed. So I love that story, love it. I like to read it, Isabel, of like I have it on my queue, like I listen to books, so I have it on my queue, but that might be an interesting, maybe one of our, like maybe we kind of do a book club, it's maybe one of our first hour sessions. I think we need to give us some time, so maybe late spring if it's possible. Maybe our first hour study session could be kind of a book study, discussion about the book or something. That could be interesting. I don't know if that was what you were envisioning, but as you were talking, that's kind of what I was thinking. And it'll help like motivate me to like bring it to the top of my queue of lots of books. Okay, I started talking fast because I'm getting excited. Sorry, everybody. I know at least Jeremy can understand when I talk fast. Okay, the other piece. So this is just a quote that I really love from one of the sessions was, we are learning our way forward. So I just really liked that phrase. We are learning our way forward. And then the last piece that I wanted to share, and I don't remember, I'll have to like go back to look at my notes or look at to see what district this was. And actually it might have not even been in California, but they essentially like to help get their community together. So what, this is like a board member who just really want to start getting engaged. So he like went out of his community and he essentially said, the district's responsibility is to build a supportive learning environment for students. The community's responsibility is to build a supportive living environment for our children. And I like those two pieces, right? Like this is the district's responsibility, this is the community's. And so he essentially went out to the community, to different key, people in different areas of their community and said, like, will you help with this, right? So he essentially found people who were, a few were not as receptive, but the people who were super receptive. So he brought them in, so they had this community engagement leadership team. And let's see, so he said, it's kind of what I said earlier, it's like, he went to like the mayor, I think the mayor wasn't receptive, so he went to the vice mayor, faith groups, other groups, and essentially, can you help us create a supportive living environment? While we, like a district, while the district works on creating a supportive learning environment. So there was 12 people in their community group who were all in, and then he said, imagine what a child could achieve if he or she or they felt fully supported by a community truly committed to their success. And I loved that, like that was like really powerful. So just, as he was sharing the story, I just was like, oh my gosh, I want this in our community, right? So I think we're a board, and especially as we were talking about those different liaison groups, right? And I remember thinking about this, like I've never been to Challenge Team, but what I've heard about Challenge Team, I'm like, could Challenge Team become this? I don't know, right? But I just really loved this, and I think this is like an important piece, and I think especially like this is a little bit more of a board, I think, responsibility and staff and support, where like we go out to the community and essentially say like, will you help us, right? Like we'll do the schools, will you help us with the community, and we build these groups, right? So that was kind of my main piece I wanted to share and kind of say like, hey, I would love to kind of try to create something similar to this.
Will you look up what district that is so we can watch it? Because I didn't see that one.
Yeah,
Yeah, because I think that the things are open they'll be open
right,
online.
so right for Christmas, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I will find out which one. I think this was actually, he was the presenter who was actually, I think, kind of almost like selling some stuff, but then he told the story in it too, right, which was just
Yeah.
powerful, like, 'cause I think this was the Franklin Covey one, but I'll go look it up for sure.
Mhm.
Cause I think he's a board member up in Washington, but, and then you could just kind of skip to like, this piece of it, cause it was really good.
Okay, thanks. So for me, the
Oh,
conference.
sorry, can I say
Oh,
one more?
yeah, sure.
Sorry. Cause I scrolled that part. One more thing about Brandon Fleming, and maybe, we're gonna talk about Brandon Fleming and love.
Go ahead.
Okay. This is my note from his, well, I took tons, but empathy, love, and compassion. This is what he said. We all have a moral responsibility to love first and teach second. And then he also, like, for leaders, he said love first and lead second.
Which works with our messaging for our district where we got love in there, remember?
Yeah.
Remember how much we love doing that?
Okay, sorry if you were to say that, and I just stole any thunder.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so, yeah, I know. So for me, you know, I feel like that was such a great place to see so many people, like you were mentioning. And I had delegate assembly first, and so like, if you're ever interested in doing delegate assembly, you know, all of our delegates from the county, we have 12 delegates from the county who went. And our director is out on maternity leave, so Albert Gonzalez, who's the current, he was the president-elect for CSBA, now he's actually he was the vice president for CSBA, now he is the president-elect for CSBA. So that was exciting that he'll be like, for the whole state of California, that will be him. So we all said aye and appointed him. And then Devin Conley from Mountain View is gonna stay our regional director. And Sylvia Leon, like I said, from Cupertino, is going to be our Asian Pacific Islander at-large director. But basically, we had so many briefings. They had legal briefings, legislative briefings, federal, state issues, things like ESSER funds, nutrition, mental health, a lot of the things that we talked about or that they're going to talk about from coast to coast, on a just kind of a micro state level with the upcoming budget. And then we had our policy pillar committees, and tons of written reports were provided to us. So it was kind of a grind, but it was very intensive work. And then in between delegate assembly, like all the county superintendents were all having their meetings as well. And so I was seeing all these people from across the state, and then within our own county, we actually got some work done. I don't know if on NBC a few months ago, or just a month or a few weeks ago, there was that story with the effigies that were being strung up in trees. And that was in all throughout Saratoga, like 3 different schools in Saratoga. And so our School Boards Association was talking to the county superintendent about it, and how to respond. And so I think we had been exchanging emails and phone calls over a course of a couple of weeks, trying to put something together for all the trustees, like as a resource and a program. And we just came up, we had a 5-minute conversation in the hallway, and Dr. Dewan said, you know, we're thinking from the county side that we're gonna incorporate some of the ethnic studies curriculum, and we wanna get student-generated curriculum. We're gonna bring students in on this. And from the School Boards Association side, we were saying, we have these trustees who've identified a student superintendent for a panel discussion and the county was saying we could have somebody who responds to these events regularly, and county resources, and like what school boards can do to prevent these incidents and to react to them when they happen. And so it was just like, I think in 5 minutes we put together like a whole plan. And that kept happening over and over, like connecting with people at APISMA or connecting with people with CLSBA. And it was just phenomenal that you could, for me, that you could just so efficiently have these like little quick meetings and touch base with people and come up with a plan for what you're gonna do, you know, to work with other people. Like for instance, Shali, what is her last name? From Los Altos. She's on the Juvenile Justice Commission, and I ran into her at APISMA, and she was saying, I said, Shali, you know that presentation that you worked with, that you put together a panel discussion on juvenile justice, the juvenile justice system, the system in Santa Clara. It was so great, and we've got to continue that discussion so that we can support all our students better. And she said, actually, I have a topic for you. We need to talk about what's happening with expulsions countywide and like how that affects children and their families for their entire lives, and what it means for them. And there's all this new research and data. And I said, well, how about what month did you do it last year? And she said, we did it in March. And I said, great. And she said, let's make March Juvenile Justice Month. It's like, okay, great. So we're gonna, it's just, but again, that conversation was in like 5 minutes. So it was just very exciting to be able to take action on things very quickly, and make plans and share ideas across the county, across the state. And then for me, just what I got out of it was just so inspiring to see how many people are working on really complex problems, and the anti-racist work, just equity work in general, family engagement, things like that. It was just really cool to see all the work that's being done that we can learn from. So can't wait to talk about more of that later this year. Okay, it's
presentation, that was amazing.
Oh yeah, and we did a presentation for Santa Clara County School Boards Association, the Legislative Action Committee, to share with other people how, like in other districts around, how they can band together and make an impact. And so it inspired some people to want to be on Ledge Action, and it's inspired other districts to, they had good questions. They wanted to pull it together. So I think that group is going to do another presentation next year with better visuals, but it was exciting to do that. But if you're a presenter, what they don't tell you is if you're a presenter, you have to be there in the time slot beforehand. You have to show up early. And so you miss 2 whole blocks of presentations basically, because you're presenting during one, and then in the other one, you're just like getting ready, you're sitting there showing that you're there. So it was very annoying because I really wanted to go to some other stuff. But yeah, so that was great. Okay, it's been 20 minutes. Are we good? It's a good wrap? Okay. Does anyone need a break before we go on to the next thing, or are we good?
I think we're good.
Okay,
Yeah,
great,
we have a
because
lot
we
of
had a
staff
break.
here.
I know, just checking.
I think
Okay.
we have to do a break, we can do it later, but let's get going.
Okay. Comments from, we're on to item 5, comments from the board and superintendent. We can go down the line. Why don't we start with Michelle?
Okay, so my only comment is to say thank you, Bridget. This is actually from Nancy to supporting her, helping her with it. But thank you so much for being president this year. And if you don't have to, you can open both, but at least open this one right now.
Okay.
And the flowers too.
And the flowers too. Thank you very much. Okay. Is this the book this book? It feels like a book. It feels like a book. I'm not unwrapping it carefully now. Oh, great. Okay. So it says, Bridget, we thank you for your leadership as board president this year. In recognition of your service, we are donating a book to each of our schools. We've selected books that reflect the diversity of our Asian Pacific Islander community. This represents some of the titles. More books will arrive in the new year. Thank you, Nancy and the governance team. And this is called Friends Are Friends Forever.
Oh, okay.
Pretty sweet.
So yeah, so I went to This is like an unasked for, like Bookosaurus is phenomenal. I think I went there last time when we got like the ones for Nancy, and we did I think a whole bunch of like different Latino ones. But Nancy like wanted to do like the API ones. I'm like, that's great. So I like full time literally I go in there. I think it was the same woman too who helped. She's so phenomenal. And I was like, I need great elementary school books that are like Asian, you know, API. So she like pulled out her books. My daughter and I looked through them, picked that, and then the other ones are just some. So I got a few, and then Nancy's gonna get more that will be
Great,
delivered to the schools.
thank
later.
you.
Yeah.
That's really a great honor, so.
Yeah,
Thanks.
and thank you for all of your work. I know it's a hard job being president, so.
You remember.
That's why you said you never want to do it again, right?
So thank you.
Thanks. Okay, Eileen?
What do we want to do?
Okay, so this is just where you share like we have just talked a lot about the education conference, which has been going on, but this is like typically where you share like district related stuff, like either like this, you'll be reporting out for your committee stuff, or you can just talk about like anything you participated with at schools, or
You can also just.
Children's
activities.
you say I'll submit my comments. Like a lot of times I'll submit my activities online and I'll just like highlight like one thing that was fun that I did.
Right, I'm gonna say nice things about Bridget.
Oh, no.
I met Bridget through the Sunnyvale Education Foundation during COVID, and I only saw her as on a Zoom screen, and when I first met her, I never knew how tall she was. That never mind. Bridget is phenomenal. She is just so devoted to all the causes that, just so devoted, so hardworking, is everywhere. And you've been a phenomenal board president. You've been a phenomenal asset to the Sunnyvale Education Foundation, and you asked me to run for this seat, and thank you so much. I did want to say also that I'll be starting in January with the Asian Pacific American Leadership Initiative Institute, a poly. I'll be doing a poly. It was very kind of them. I emailed them and said, your program looks really cool. Unfortunately, I can't make it because my board meetings are on Thursdays. And they said, you know what, since you asked so nicely, you can come on the Thursdays you don't have meetings. And I just thought that was great because I didn't expect that. That's really cool. So I'll be starting that in January and I'll be done in June. And yeah.
I think you're gonna say something about parents helping parents.
About parents helping parents. I finished my parents, thank you. I finished my parents helping parents advocacy training last week.
It's a great organization. Yeah, great organization. Excellent. Okay, Isabel.
Yes, so last week we had a meeting, well, you know, Bridget and I, well, I don't wanna start talking good things about Bridget because she's not leaving and I will take 3 hours and non-stop. She pretty much worked full-time for free for kids in Sunnyvale. Like she's everywhere doing everything, and when she's not, she's doing things for the kids in the county, so. I won't start, but she knows.
Don't worry.
And well, last week we had a meeting, with the architects, and we saw some of the projects for SMS, and we chose one, but I'm not sure how much we can say about that, but that's working, and it seems like we're gonna start working more into the project, and that's very exciting. Vince, the principal, was there, and he also gave feedback. We all, were very engaged, and that was quite a few hours last Monday. Then we had the meeting on Wednesday. So you had a family emergency, couldn't make it. Bridget was going to be there, but we did have the meeting with the county to talk about, kind of close all these visits that we've been doing to all the shelters with families and reviewing all the different ways to approach children that are in shelters. During that, I had some notes from that. we met with the county. It was there also the people from it was Naomi from the Foothill District for the Fremont High School District, and it was Sylvia Leon from Cupertino, and there was me from Sunnyvale. And we asked about how many families right now are in emergency shelter, 120 in the county. We asked, I think there are 16 kids right now in Sunnyvale. Then Sunnyvale, between
Just in our shelter.
just in our shelter,
just in our
Sunnyvale, Gilroy, in San Jose, between those cities, there are 50 families also that are getting San Jose, in semi-congregated ones, which are the ones that they don't have, we visit a lot of them that they will have private rooms and private for every family. But there were at least 50 in the county families with children that are in semi-congregate one, which are like they're sleeping or having to shower all together. So we talk about that, and it's very up to the point that we're gonna have the presentation from the district today about the McKendy-Bento Act, because then we talk a lot about that, but we're gonna learn more from Dasha today. That's great. Let's see, the architect, the meetings. We did have a challenge. We had leadership Sunnyvale, and we met with the special districts and with the mayor. And we did have, we have a conference in the middle of 4 days of conference. And we have a challenge also during this week.
No, this week we just did the donation.
Oh yeah, that's true. We grabbed the donation. And I think we were in one meeting when the own house committee came last Friday, so we couldn't make it because we were in another meeting. But yeah, I think that kind of wraps up most of the good things we did in the last 2 weeks.
That's right, I know. It's a lot. So I'm gonna send in my activities to Jesus tomorrow, but for this meeting. But the two things that I wanted to highlight that I did that were super fun were going to San Miguel's Winterland Festival. It was like a carnival. They had indoor games, they had outdoor folklorico dancing. They had like all sorts of food trucks, and it just felt like a really fun, big neighborhood party. That was amazing. And it was just so inclusive and positive. I just loved it. And then also the Fairwood Craft Fair was in person. I bought a ton of stuff. I bought a really cute gnome, Christmas tree gnome thing where my husband's like, "What did you buy?" And I'm like, "It's so adorable." So I'm turning into a strange old lady. I guess I'm like I'm turning really weird. Like I'm like, oh, so thank goodness he works for Pinterest because he can understand my weirdness. But I just like saw so much creativity of all age groups. They had kids who had made stuff, moms, grandmas, neighbors, like it was just super fun. And so sadly I was inspired for Christmas to make my own ornaments this year. And I'm not selling them, but I was just like, oh, okay, this is my group here. So I just loved it, and I can't wait to go to other events in the new year. So that's my whole thing.
Okay, just real quickly. Is this on?
Yes.
Okay. The state has released the 2022 school dashboard. I'll remind you that we talked about this before, that we should consider this a baseline of data. It is exactly the data that you would expect if schools had been closed, not by school districts, but by the health department and the state. And if the health departments and the state didn't created conditions that made it such that students didn't attend school. So
in person.
In person. So It's a baseline. I'm actually, personally, I shared this with our principals today. I'm far more interested in the work that we're doing this year than in that past history. And I'm very excited about the work that we're doing this year. Another piece of information I'm going to send you a link to in the weekend update is from Pivot Learning. There's an article about this, I think, in the Mercury News this week. Pivot Learning is a nonprofit organization focused on improving instruction. And what they put together was a district readiness index, and the readiness is for innovation and sustaining improvement. So they rated every district in the state of California. They looked at 5 different domains: community relations, finance, leadership, personnel policies, and workplace conditions. And there were subcategories under those. I will tell you that if you look at them, their analysis isn't perfect because they didn't actually talk to people, but they looked at online and stuff like that. So some of the details aren't exactly right, but the part that they got right is that we got the highest rating, strong foundation, which is, and it's focused on really what our focus has been this year, innovation and improvement. So like I said, I'll send you a link to that. It's kind of interesting to look at the categories. If nothing else, it's what an outside organization says are the categories we should be looking at for innovation and sustainable improvement. So I think that's good. The last thing that I'll say is we have a meeting on January 12th, but we also have a governance retreat planned for the 20th, the afternoon, evening of the 20th, and the morning of the 21st, so that's Friday and Saturday. There is a chance that we may have to change that. And if we were to change it, we would change it to the 19th, a regular on a Thursday at the regular time. I'll send you a note this weekend and let me know if there's a problem with the 19th. We're gonna do everything we can, right, Bridget?
Yeah.
To make it happen on the 20th and 21st, but if we can't, we've got that out, okay? That's all I have.
Thank you. I forgot one thing. That is, actually it's great that we're doing that new committee or liaison. I had a lunch last week with a friend. I was telling you about. She is women at Stanford and she's from Iran. And she was commenting that for her has been very difficult to concentrate in the last 3 months with so much that's been coming on. She's Iranian American. And she's normally an advocate about women's rights and about girls' rights. And now that everything that is happening internationally, it's been very hard for her to concentrate. And every time she hears any kind of acknowledgement, it's really very meaningful for her. And we've done a few times since I've been here in the board, recognitions and some sort of call out for support for some people. And I think it will be great if we can do something supporting the human rights of our girls and in general, in view of what is happening with the human rights of the women of Iran.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Sounds great. So you will be board president, so you can bring that forward. Okay, sounds good.
In a whole woman.
That's right, that's right. Oh, that's gonna be interesting. Okay, so we're on to item 6, comments from the Sunnyvale Education Association. Is there anyone present or online? No. How about comments, item 7, comments from the California School Employees Association? Is there anyone present or online? No. Comments from the public, item 8. We do have one card here. This is the time to comment about things that are not on the agenda. This portion of the agenda provides an opportunity for members of the public to directly address the governing board on any item of interest to the public. However, provisions of the Brown Act preclude any action being taken on an item not appearing on the posted agenda. The board can only receive information during this time. We cannot speak about it nor or to items that are not on our agenda. If you'd like to comment on any item not on the agenda, do we have anyone online waiting? Please use the raised hand feature. Okay, seeing none, we have one card. Is Peggy Brewster from the Sunnyvale Education Foundation. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. So I'm here in the capacity of to represent the Sunnyvale Education Foundation. I'm the grants administrator there. I wanted to share two things that we've been doing that's very exciting with the district. Firstly, we have earmarked $25,000 for garden-based learning and outdoor learning spaces. This is an open application to all of the school sites. We have only gotten one so far, and this was opened in November. So we've gotten one grant application for $1,200. The check will be delivered tomorrow. But this is an open invitation to all the school sites to, use our money to make your living outdoor spaces, your learning areas better. So it doesn't have to be the principal that is applying. It could be, a parent volunteer, which is what happened with SMS for the last one. It could be, a passionate teacher. The deadline is January 27th. So I just wanted to put that out there, and hopefully we'll get some more applications. We also had this garden group that is like a SEF-based Google Groups type thing, where we are sharing gardening information across the district. So if you have people that, are passionate about outdoor learning, about gardening, have them sign on through us. Right now, we just got like an offer for seeds. Like there's somebody who has a seed company and they just want to, donate seeds. So that's out there. We share information about, just our ideas about how to get kids into the garden, what kind of curriculum. We have a few different curriculum that's already up there and being shared. So the second thing I want to mention is that we have recently come into this really cool opportunity to kind of redistribute this office furniture. It kind of appeared to me through a contact that I have, and we opened it up to all the principals, and about 100 pieces of furniture have been claimed across 5 school sites. And we are having a family from San Miguel. They own a moving company, West Valley Moving. So this is the church family. They are doing the delivery from Hayward, going to all the school sites. And we're just really excited about this opportunity to go through our foundation to help all of the school sites. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Great news. Okay. So we're on to item 9, presentations. 9A is a presentation on the McKinney-Vento Act and homeless and foster youth supports. Mr. Paul Slayton, nice to see you again.
Hi, thanks for having me. Wait.
Thanks for bearing with us.
Sure, thanks for having me back. I'm joined tonight. I wanted to introduce some people. We have Diana Johnson, who is the lead social worker for the McKinney-Vento process and at Bishop. Sarah Rodriguez, who joined us this year as a social worker at SMS, and Gladys Mazariegos, who is the social worker at San Miguel. Thanks so much for being patient, being here. Dr. Dean's worked out the hand signs. If I start going too quickly, so she'll slow me down. I had the opportunity to be in the Santa Clara County Office of Ed meeting community of practice around homeless and foster youth. And they just kind of asked us to do a share out. And I shared that I was going to be here talking to you about McKinney-Vento services and foster youth. And they were blown away that the board was interested in hearing kind of the state of where we are and where we're hoping to go. I was shocked by that and just grateful to be able to share with you where we are now. So just by way of context, I'm going to be pushing the button Jesus told me to push and nothing's going to happen, which is part and parcel. Thanks. Yeah, there we go. The McKinney-Vento Act has been around since 1987. Just very briefly, this is the first federal intervention in addressing homelessness programmatically. Prior to this, everything happened at the community level. It was very ad hoc and responsive to families in need, but not federally funded or standardized. This governs how public schools support families experiencing homelessness across the country. There's a lot of variation, and we're not going to bother with it, but in California, we have a robust set of laws that kind of prescribe how we manage supporting homelessness in our schools. In Sunnyvale, there is a process for this. We're going to talk about that. But most importantly, the people sitting behind me are here to share the people side of what occurs at a school site for a young person experiencing homelessness. So there's process, there's people. The obvious piece we're here for is how this works with people. The third bullet point here is just heartbreaking, but profound that the CDSS, that's the California Department of Social Services, monitors the 28,000 foster youth that are living in California. Foster youth have been around 28,000 in California for decades, which is actually good news. As our population's increased, foster adoption and placement has increased as well. But as a population, this is a population that is overrepresented in every negative statistical category you can bring to bear upon them. We're going to talk briefly about that, but more hopefully about how this works with people in Sunnyvale that we come into contact with. So great question, and thank you for asking for the clarification. What does a McKinney-Vento home student experiencing homelessness, how do we identify that? I'm not going to go through all of these because you can read as we go, but there is a clear, it's not even a flow chart, it's kind of a binary chart that we use. That's a resource we received on how to define if a family and student qualify for homeless services. Really broad, but there's some exclusions that we really are grateful for. Things like a family sharing a residence by choice or temporarily because of a job change, a family coming in from out of the county because a parent got a job here and they're temporarily in a hotel. We are not obligated to treat that family as if they're experiencing homelessness. Sounds silly, but in the past, there's been a very regimented, myopic way of identifying a student as a student experiencing homelessness, and it's prevented us from really looking at what occurs when a student is mobile and is not living in a safe, stable environment long-term. Migratory children and children who are migrating either with work or there's a lot of other factors there, all can qualify as a McKinney-Vento receiving person, and that's critical as well. And we'll go into why in just a sec. So that's the definition of how we would identify a student in our school system that would qualify as requiring or being benefiting from homeless services. Jesus, I'm pushing. He's going to push for me, I can tell. So pretty critical here. 2018-19, we went back and identified by end of year 13 students in Sunnyvale School District who would have qualified as McKinney-Vento. You can read along with me. 19-20, we went to 25 students. During the pandemic and shutdown to 18, and these are all end of year numbers. Currently, as of today, we have 59 students in Sunnyvale School District that qualify as McKinney-Vento. There is a significant percentage that are part of sibling groups, but these are 59 students at December that qualify for these services, almost tripling every single year prior. Why? A lot of reasons why. Couple of the reasons are very simply, the eviction moratorium that was brought in during the COVID pandemic has expired. And that means some students who would have been receiving a delay to losing housing, that delay is now over, and parents are having to provide housing again. There are some things where we wonder if students are identifying more readily. Mr. Nishihara has set up a different way that we are going to families to ask if they're having housing concerns. It's happening more regularly, and it's a more transparent process this year that can't account for that kind of increase, but it could be part of it. We also wonder how many families, because of post-pandemic support, are safely expressing a need for homeless services. All of that together, still, we do see a surge in homelessness in California that is linked to our foster youth statistics we're going to speak about, but this is a major concern. This increase is not just us. As all the trends we're seeing with things like attendance, these are statewide, these are federal concerns. And for our jobs, these are students under our care that require a very specialized, different type of care than a typical student we see. Please jump in as I plow ahead if you have questions or concerns. So what happens if we have a student that's identified as needing these services? We've cleared a lot of things out of the way, which we'll talk about briefly, but what these students receive, some of these things are mandated, some are things we've managed to create here. They pre-existed me, but just in sharing them, these students can remain in their school of origin. That means they are not needing to move with their family who is looking for stable housing. I don't know which vignettes, if any, social workers are going to share, but just having cleaned the information from it, a family who moves from being in a safe place in a car park and finds a hotel room that's in a different attendance boundary does not need to disenroll, re-enroll to a different school site, or move. They can. There's a lot of authority in the parent trying to say, hey, I'm trying to get my child near me, but there's no forced change from our enrollment department. That sounds like a simple thing, and it can be, but there is the will on the district procedural side to make change and mobility as limited as possible and as much at the parent's discretion as possible. No cost transportation to their school from where they are living. That is a very simple description of what one of our people, Shri, does on a daily basis. She is about 20 feet away from where I work daily, and I listen to her coordinating transportation for 31 students qualifying for McKinney-Vento support daily. There's different agencies she uses. Not all of that is district busing. There are several organizations we work with and contract with to drive students from where they're living to school and home. And Shri even coordinates extracurricular activities. The kid wants to go to the dance after school, we can adjust their transportation if mom and dad or parent or caregiver can't make it happen. School, they get enrolled right away. If there's missing paperwork or delays, Jeremy's team and our team in enrollment has been trained to just make anything happen to get the child in the school with their social worker as quickly as possible. We'll get the paperwork down the road. Not always a good practice when you're enrolling a typical student with typical family needs. Amazing when you're looking at a family who's been mobile and probably had some pretty significant obstacles to getting down here. Saying, hey, can you go home and get this piece of paper isn't appropriate when that's a huge ask, not knowing what it took for them to get there that day. So generally, they must not face barriers to accessing academic or extracurricular activities. That's generic language that's in the McKinney-Vento Act. For us, it means we have the authority to really do creative solutions. If a student, there's so many that come to mind, and some of which are probably not mine to share, because you want to esteem the family's privacy too. But a family that needs to get their student into something we can do to support them, we can move earth and heaven, and we do. And it's largely because of the people sitting behind me that this happens the way it does for these kids. So logistically, a student every year in Sunnyvale has an opportunity to indicate loss of stable housing. Jeremy set this up, and it works where a student and family are asked, is there anything going on that would cause you to experience instability? If the answer is yes, we just use the McKinney-Vento process to assess what needs to happen next. There's plenty of paperwork. They would fill it out with assistance from Vanessa up front and Manuel up front. They're able to move right into the McKinney-Vento qualification process. We do some verification without being intrusive, and we start providing services right away. The enrollment process is hosted here. School sites don't process McKinney-Vento. There's a lot of reasons why. One of them is privacy, that a family coming in to do this process at a school can be traumatic, and the family can have a difficult time as they're talking about what's a very sensitive issue. Doing that in a school office can be traumatic for the child. Doing it here means we can control it a little more and really take the time without being in a public space. Not that our schools aren't safe, but there's a lot happening there for kids. So what happens ongoing, and this is the part I think I'm most excited about, a staff person who suspects a student may be experiencing homelessness can go to their principal, their assistant principal, any of the social work staff, and can share their concern. That can initiate support from the district office right away at any point in the school year. So we do this big push at the beginning to identify the right kids, but just as recently as last week, we have McKinney-Vento kids identified in Sunnyvale School District that started experiencing homelessness after our first push to make sure we had who we had on the list. All the people I mentioned have a current live, constantly updated list of students who are receiving McKinney-Vento or foster youth services, so they can access them, see who needs what. That isn't a public list, which is purposeful, and we'll talk about that in a sec, but this is not a mysterious group of students that just kind of disappear into our school environments, but they're also not put in the same classroom and flagged as if there's something wrong. Nope, I thought I heard a question. Moving forward. Thanks, Jesus. Ready? Yes. So here's our team. I have your last name wrong, so you're going to ignore that because I changed it. Diana Johnson is our team lead. Diana Chapman is a school psychologist I worked with like 10 years ago. Just wanted to share that's where that name came from. She coordinates a lot with our local service agencies. Swear I changed it. And she works specifically with minimizing the disruption once a student is placed. She ongoing supports families as needed. As learning person, I'm able to go with her and say, here's where I think we've gone with stuff. What do we do next? So super grateful. All the social workers are on the McKinney-Vento team, meaning they know when a student is expected to land at their school site. I have the privilege of being the foster and homeless youth liaison for us and constantly text and call Jeremy to ask if I'm messing something up that we already do. Manuel and Vanessa, who work right up front here, they do our affidavit and enrollment processes with all of our families. Shri upstairs, along with Sharmila, run everything from monthly updates to the county about every single one of our McKinney-Vento and foster youth, on down to all the paperwork. Yes.
Clarifying question about the affidavits. So is this is something that like we've gotten some correspondence on, like where, and there's like a swirl going around, like where allegedly we're not alone, but the affidavits are really getting in the way. Are you hearing that? At
There's different ones. This is a good question. There's the caregiver affidavit, which,
Go first and then.
This is not the affidavit I'm talking about.
Okay,
so if a family is a family going through experiencing homeless support, this is not the affidavit that's an obstacle. We had talked about the caregiver affidavit, which is not a McKinney-Vento domain at all. So do you want to go from there?
Yeah, I'll just jump in. There's the affidavit of residency and the caregiver. I think the big practice that has been being used in the county and across the state was the notary was this huge roadblock. So I think like late last year, we adjusted our process to allow notary is one way to verify that the homeowner is testifying that they own the property and they're, doubling up for mutual decision made to live together. And so we also allow credit to Vanessa and Manuel. They've also allowed like Zoom meetings, so if the homeowner can jump on and show their documentation. We use email, even text. We even have a 30-day. We were inspired by the McKinney-Vento team where we're allowing the residency folks to be able to start school immediately, and they're given 30 days to collect the documentation. We do have to fulfill that part of it to make sure that the homeowner is owning the place to satisfy our residency requirements, but we offer multiple ways and expanded time to be able to do it. Because if we get any indication that the family is in an unstable housing situation, then it's referred to McKinney-Vento. So that's kind of what we're doing.
Yeah, I think because I think I had heard that it was because the homeowners were not willing to, or the landlords were not willing to state that they were supporting families there. Like they were trying not to say that they were charging anyone rent.
Correct. And so with the what is that called? Collaboration with the McKinney-Vento team, then that does not sound stable to us. So we would then refer to the other direction.
So okay, thanks.
So the students we specifically have, without giving too much detail, the 59 students this year, 16 are at the middle school level, 43 are at the elementary level. Average absences, this is as of December 1st, is the 5 days per. The 3-day absence is general right now, which is very high, but that is what we're seeing as far as disparity. The minimal gap between the student needing homeless services versus a student who isn't for attendance speaks directly to the efforts transportation is being brought from Sunnyvale School District. It's pretty incredible. We do have McKinney-Vento students underperforming academically. They are a population that struggles academically, mostly because of educational mobility, and that academics perseverance at a school site has been difficult. Even with McKinney-Vento supports, families are often transitional within and without districts and don't often stay K through 8. Most of our systems are designed longitudinally, and if a student leaves in 2nd grade or we receive them in 4th grade, we see those gaps in understanding. To the next point. There we go. Breakup of ethnicity, just generically, again, don't want to keep this far enough away to protect privacy. A lot of our students identify as Hispanic, and this breakdown is pretty common across California. Not all of the Hispanic students identify as our Spanish-speaking English learner group, but that's the general breakdown of who we have in Sunnyvale School District right now. The overall breakdown of students across schools ebbs and flows. I've looked at over the last few years, and chose not to include specific schools and numbers here. They're not an indicator of the neighborhood the student is living in because we don't enroll that way. It indicates which school is closest to where they are currently residing. And if they move further away into Cherry Chase's neighborhood district, we don't need to move. We just keep the student where they're housed the first time.
Question?
Oh, yes, go.
If the student moves outside of Sunnyvale, outside of our attendance boundaries, are they still shuttled in from, say, San Jose or Santa Clara?
Yes.
Thank you.
By choice, they don't have to stay. They can choose to go and move into the district of closer to where they're residing, but we do have students that we're continuing to transport. So moving on to foster youth very briefly, something that Sharmila and the team upstairs worked with Rohini downstairs to identify. One of the major concerns for foster youth is, aside from transition to homelessness at 18 years old, which is 50% of foster youth become homeless at 18, is they are over-disciplined with discipline that takes them out of the school environment. There is state law around this. On the bottom there, AB 740 requires a school district to contact a foster child's attorney if they're going to be suspended or removed or have a change of placement. This is something we had already been looking at. Now that it's state law, it makes it a little, well, it was already very urgent, fortunately. But what we have now is an indicator for every single McKinney-Vento or foster youth in the district that in Power School, there's an indicator that if they're going to receive school discipline, that a call to student services needs to be made, specifically to the student services department. So we don't weigh in and take over the discipline process, but we serve then as just an extra checkpoint. Have we followed what we follow for students? Are we contacting the student's attorney? Are all the boxes getting checked? And in that process, making sure we've done everything. And if an out-of-school suspension were to occur, it would be necessary and there wouldn't be any other options. There's just tons going on for foster youth that have nothing to do with school. They are the highest risk student group we have in California. And just personally, I don't think we need to go further into what those risk factors are after they're 18 because they're pretty significant. The lead positive factor for them being resilient is academic success. That students who are foster youth and have academic success have a much higher chance of being stable long-term and finding permanent housing. So process, that's what we do. There are still hurdles I could find. We are gonna knock them down as soon as they come up. I have yet to come up against a wall with people in the district saying, hey, I think we're good where we're at. Everybody wants to make this just a perfect system where there's support emotionally and procedurally. One of the supports that I'm just blown away by is our social worker support at the district, at the actual school sites, working with families. So Diana, you want to come up here and talk? Diana's gonna come up here and talk. Diana Johnson.
Yeah, oh boy, seeing those numbers, the year-to-year numbers. I felt like this year for me has been the year of McKinney-Vento. And yeah, now seeing those numbers, I'm like, oh, that's why. That's like triple the number of students we typically have. So, but I wanted to share a little bit about a family at Bishop, and I'm kind of mashing together, you know, some of the stories so I can maintain their privacy. This is a student that was new to us this year, started a few days after school started, and they were coming from outside of the county. This family was living in their car. As they entered our school, we learned that the student hadn't really had access to or attended school the year before. So a lot of academic needs. When that student started, some of the first steps, and this is pretty standard. One of the first steps is that I meet with that family, for this family in particular, I submitted a referral for Sunnyvale Community Services, and told the parent about this service, about this agency. We have just $50 Target gift cards that are also provided by Sunnyvale Community Services. So I was just able to hand that to this parent. Got counseling consent because we prioritize these students for assessment, at least initially for counseling needs. And if we determine that that's, will be beneficial for them, then we proceed forward with counseling services. KLAS. So I alerted our KLAS team that we had a student that needed that service. So those were some of the main things usually that I look at when we first get a student in. But one thing for this student in particular that was probably, first and foremost was just extreme social anxiety. So if you would see the student out at recess and they usually have their head down. At lunch, they have their head on the table. Clearly it had been a long time since they were in school. They had moved to a lot of different schools and they were feeling really isolated coming here. So my initial meetings with this student and support was around coming up with goals, like who is somebody that that seems nice, that you want to build a friendship with. Okay, let's role play, let's practice how you can ask them to play. And we even had we set up a reinforcement system. If you can be brave enough to talk to 2 new people this week or ask 2 people to play, then we'll have a slime party. So the student was able to meet that goal. And you could immediately start to see just their demeanor change. They were starting to branch out and make new friends and sit with friends. And sometimes they'd still be on their own at recess, but they were starting to branch out. Well, science camp was starting. And we knew that this would be a really important social opportunity for this student. So, but we also knew that the student's not going to have the typical supplies that you need for science camp. So luckily last year, our 5th graders at Bishop had fundraised. They'd sold popsicles to fundraise for science camp support for our incoming 5th graders this year. So for actually a couple of our McKinney-Vento families, we were able to purchase things like sleeping bags, jackets, extra pairs of shoes, pants, shirts, underwear, to get these students to science camp. So this student was able to attend science camp, came back, and of course that was just revolutionary. The student has friends, really close, smiling, happy, engaging in the classroom, engaging out at recess and lunch with her friends. It's really been very powerful to see. But the family still had not found housing. I think one of the things I've seen this year with our McKinney-Vento families is our temporary shelters are overloaded. I was supporting this parent and calling the homeless support network within Santa Clara County. Sunnyvale Community Services was supporting this parent. The parent was calling themselves, and they were still having to live out of their car. There were nights where they had to travel from Stockton, from a motel in Stockton, to get to school each morning. There was one day where I received an email from the teacher saying, hey, the student said there was some police involvement the night before, and it's because this family had been in their car and the police had been called on them. And as many of our McKinney-Vento students, this was a student of color, and so that was incredibly traumatic for the family. But what came of that was Sunnyvale Police gave them some vouchers to stay in a motel. So, rather than taking any punitive action, I think our officers were very understanding and actually saw that this family needed support, and they gave them that support. The family was finally provided with support through Sunnyvale Community Services for housing vouchers, and they were able to, the mom was so excited to tell me this, and she and I just were jumping up and down with excitement. They were able to find housing right down the street from Bishop. So you can see them walking to school in the morning. It's pretty amazing. So that's just kind of, I think for this family in particular, it took Sunnyvale Community Services, it took social work support, it took after school support, program KLAS support, it took Sunnyvale PD, it took, and then our community is supporting some of our McKinney-Vento families through the Giving Tree program, where we're purchasing gifts for some of our families. So it's taken a village to support these students. But that's one of many stories that I felt was particularly powerful.
Questions? Yes.
We can ask clarifying questions now. So yeah, you can ask this clarifying question.
How long do they continue to receive this specific support after they've found that?
So if a student finds housing mid-year, at any point after the beginning of the year, they sustain that through the entire school year, regardless of their housing status. So we don't do like a mid-year check. We don't want services to expire prematurely, and stable housing can easily evaporate, and we don't want to have kids ping-ponging in and out. At the beginning of the following year, we would do that check-in to see, do you still need the support? And if so, great. And if not, we'll try to move that support elsewhere. So the hardest thing about this work, aside from good emotional boundaries, is good, clear vision, because a board member had asked, well, what's the ideal? The ideal, and Dr. Dean, we felt this way, would be housing every single one of the 59 children. And that is outside our scope and vision, because we are an educational institution and we have to focus on what we do. So it's very difficult to maintain focus. There's a couple of stories that come to mind for me around staff people wanting to do help for a family that's a McKinney-Vento receiving family that wasn't asked for and really wasn't part of what the needs were, but would have felt great for the staff member to deliver. And the examples probably need to stay vague, but it's bringing support that we think is a good idea isn't support. It's a little more enabling, and it can rapidly deplete resources that could be used elsewhere, and can get odd, and the word is enmeshed, where we can lose our objectivity to providing what we're supposed to provide as an educational institution. So amazing services, really flexible supports, no procedure that excludes a family, and then really clear vision on what it is we're supposed to do, and then looking for the areas we can go beyond without kind of getting over involved and losing objectivity. Thank you so much for the attention on this. It's near and dear. Of the McKinney-Vento students we have, many are doing well and stable and connecting with friendships. And that is amazing to hear happen, because it doesn't just happen. It takes a lot of involved adults that care about kids. So thank you.
We're gonna just open it up for public comment. I don't see anyone present in the room. If there's anyone online who'd like to have a question or a comment, please use the raise hand feature now. No? Okay, board questions, comments?
I can go. So I have my question. So one of those first slides, you can go back to, but the slide where you kind of were talking about like the qualifying services, right? So they can get transportation, those other services. And I'm just curious, kind of like how did the counties find out about it? So maybe almost walk through a little bit, like if I'm a parent who's in that situation, like coming to me, I've put out me with you, like do you then share those things? Like how do I find out about those different things that I qualify for?
Thanks, Michelle. So that is keyed on Vanessa at the front and Manuel. They are the front line for saying, what are the things you need? Talking to Vanessa specifically, her prior experience was around connecting with community and social services. So that's the first place they hear about things like, do you need transportation? We can help. Do you need connection to finding out more about shelter in the area? Do you need academic support? What we find, and this is from previous experience as well, that is not often the time the family is able to express all of their needs. Often that initial thing will be uniforms, and I need a book bag or a backpack.
Yeah.
And then that's
they
what.
They might not really share everything. They'll just be like, oh, we're fine.
Yes, and not even through being evasive or private, but just thinking, well, I don't know what to ask. And so instead we say, here are the things we can help with. And then we say it again at the school site.
Because I was like, you wouldn't know what to ask, but you wouldn't know to ask for transportation. So we say, hey, if you need this, we can provide it.
Exactly. And we are very clear, there's a concern about cost pretty often. And being able to say transportation is free of cost as long as you need it, and trying to be creative and not irresponsible with the funding, but also having that upfront for a very high needs family is key. And those needs change through the school year. And that's why social workers being aware of who their students are and regularly checking in is the thing.
I can imagine that a lot of times that the behavior would be like that you find out because it would come out through the student, right? Like it would come out through what the student's going through, like no one would know. And then somehow something would come out. And how do the outreach coordinators dovetail in with the social workers and the
Yeah, thank you. So the outreach coordinators now overlap a meeting with the social workers when we have our district central meeting. Purpose being they share a lot of the front lines is a weird metaphor for it, but a lot of the front-facing, public-facing experience of the families. So they have been fully trained in how to identify McKinney-Vento need, and they know who their social worker is, and they know how to refer to the district office for that. It's not new. They've known there was a process, but making that overlap with social workers more regular is something that's just starting so they can kind of be part of that team. So that's the short answer, is making sure the people that are meeting the families are able to identify and help.
Two questions. I asked earlier about when students who find housing, if they stop receiving support. I was also curious about foster youth, if they continue receiving these specialized supports if they are adopted.
Yes, so FOST-Adopt, once a student's adopted, they are technically not a foster youth anymore. There's a thing called Foster Vision, which is a very secured private database of which students are receiving foster care. Most students in foster care, there's a parent that needs to not know where they are. And so it's a little different than just our normal SIS system we use for student information. But if a student is adopted mid-year, they don't need to be moved out. If their adopting parent is out of county or out of the area, we would still retain them here. They may also move out at their own will, but there's no termination midstream of foster services. Foster qualification is a little weird because it happens at the county level, and we don't go through any sort of vetting or verification process. That's kind of separate from us. We receive that student as already identified.
And then additionally, I'm unfamiliar thus far with how social workers are distributed through the district.
Mm-hmm.
What happens if the family's homeschool doesn't have a social worker?
So every school has a lead social worker. Not all of them are like in an office at the school daily. Most of these 3 social workers are actually at a school site. For example, Cumberland doesn't have the same need for a social worker, so theirs is close and regularly contacting the principal and leadership team, and she knows who their McKinney-Vento students are. So same process there, but she doesn't have an office on site. But every school has a lead social worker. Right now, SMS has 2 as Sarah gets settled in, and we have a higher kind of level of need going there. But so there isn't a school where there isn't I didn't say that well, double negative. No school has we'll leave it there. So that's 8, 9 o'clock.
And just to add, the psychologists also back the social workers up, so they kind of work in tandem. So there's always someone available at every school site to support them.
And the outreach liaison too. So there's this just redundancy process.
So okay, thank you.
Okay.
You can continue.
I'm still developing my thought.
Okay, we'll come back to it. Isabel, do you have anything right now? I had a question about capacity. If we're at triple a typical year and we're about halfway through the year, and we're hearing that, I'm hearing, like it's in the news, that there are more people probably coming here and that there are more people that are going to be evicted over the holidays, which is sad. But I'm wondering if, like, how are we handling it with the people we have in place?
Can this scale up?
Can we scale it up if we need to?
Yes. So right now, there is nothing specifically deployed for the number 59. Everything is deployed for that lower 15 to 25 number we've seen regularly. There's no system close to breaking. There's no system that we're seeing almost at its endpoint. I don't know what that upper number would be, thank God, because that means no one has sat with me and said, here's how many homeless students experiencing homelessness we would serve. We would reallocate as needed and move staff as needed to meet the need. And there's a lot of gratitude for that. Is there an upper limit? Of course. And I don't know what that would be. I think the most exciting thing we talked about last time I was here was the community schools grant and the planning phase for that. That is a major vision for how a school would be a place that had more systems in place for students experiencing homelessness. And that's huge. So the coincidental, because it really is, increase in students needing these services and then the potential for community schools actually work very well together. So hard to say that's exciting because it's a difficult thing, but it is. It's exciting because that's a change in how to look at a school site that would really serve this population.
Just like for the rest of the board, Isabel and I have been meeting, going to these meetings with the county. And it's just so clear as we tour the other sites that Sunnyvale having this congregate setting is really a disservice to our families. And, I wouldn't want to
You're
say.
talking about the Sunnyvale homeless shelter.
The Sunnyvale, yeah.
And by congregate setting, you mean?
Mean open
Okay.
warehouse setting.
Okay.
And, we've been there, we've asked them if they could reconfigure it somehow, or, they said, oh yeah, we could just move where the door is or something, but it's just, it's so clear that the way that when COVID happened, the county switched their lines, so they have that one single point of contact lines. And the questions that they ask families are, where do your kids go to school? Where do you shop? Where do you spend time? Where do your friends live? Do you have family in the area? And so if all their family is around this area, they might not even refer them to somewhere that's actually nicer in South San Jose if an opening comes up, because they're trying to keep them as close to where their most connections are. That's what the county told us. And so, the fact that like the other housing that we have available nearby is in Mountain View. It also services our Sunnyvale families. And I mean, even though allegedly the county services everybody, but the Mountain View one, they have, they're like little portables that families can go into, but they're very small. And they say, well, we can only take those families if they have like just 2 children. And then so many other of the facilities around the county, because of the way the bathrooms are set up, they can't have teenage boys of a certain age. It's women with young children. And so if you have like a teenager, then they go to a group home, and it's just like insane. It's an insane system, and there aren't enough beds as there are. So I think like that was my question about like a more ideal way of dealing with the kids who are in that congregate setting. Pre-pandemic, we had talked about maybe pushing in some services from the school district there, because the moms and the dads that were in that setting were reluctant to let their kids go away from them. Like they wanted to like keep them close and look at them, And so I don't know I know that when Cupertino had a school closure, they donated a ton of books. I don't know if there's any way to make the group area there more conducive to social, to like activities or learning. If there's tutoring available out there, because it's just so different. Like we had talked about the pandemic thing that you always bring up, where it's like we tried to get them to go to a site to do Zoom from the room, and they got one and whatever. I mean, I don't know if there's any way that we could support because it could be any of our students. Any of our students could need to go there at any time. If there's any way that we can partner, or leverage our other partners to really try to make that setting a better place to land, more friendly, so that it isn't like they're living in their cars or whatever. I don't know. Has there been any, have you been out there to?
So my experience with the shelters outside of Santa Clara County and seeing how services were aligned there it was very shelter specific. And the most successful model is if a school district is going to bring something to bear, it needs to be in coordination with what the shelter is expressing as a need. Book donations, things like that, very simple, of course, if they're needed and they're not being put in storage.
Right.
Allocating staff, other types of interventions are so irregular because of the transition rate of the population that I haven't seen it be successful in the way that I hear you kind of imagining. It would take a tight relationship with people in the shelter and their vision for how the shelter operates, and then what Sunnyvale School District has to bring.
It's not set up for families right now. It's like families happen to be able to be there. So they have a family with 6 kids or something, you know, I mean.
Right. I think the first steps would be with any two organizations trying to help each other, making sure that's possible with what each has to bring and the needs are. But again, outside Santa Clara County, the most successful partnerships are pretty fluid. And it's like, we have a student in place, do they have access to independent study services or whatever, but nothing structural that the district has a regular presence in the shelter. That doesn't seem to be super common.
Okay, and then my other question is, you know, sadly, I'm seeing more families out begging, like in front of the grocery stores and stuff. And I've talked to the families like this, I used a Romanian translator with one lady, and I used a Spanish translator like with the other lady, and I was like trying to talk to them, and they're saying, oh, we live in Salinas, or we live, you know, far away. We're just here for the day. Someone brought them in begging for the day. And they've got these kids with them. And so like, is anyone like, are they just forever going to be flying under the radar? Because I really have the sense these kids aren't going to be in school, and I don't want to call the police on them.
The most critical response to a family begging on the street with a child is not providing anything to the family and contacting DPS or somebody. Those are often exploited families and children that are not keeping the money they're taking, the transportation to another county to do this, and then the person picking them up to bring them back to their home county and requiring them to give over the money is usually what occurs. It was really hard when I first heard that from law enforcement, and I pushed back on it thinking, well, that's compassion. And they were comfortable saying, no, that's about assuaging guilt on the person that's the giver. And it's very true. I really struggled because my family had packs and food in the van and we would hand it out. And it was something that DPS and San Jose Police said, do not support this. This is not a family seeking help, and it just is not what you think it is. So we have pamphlets. It's the Sladen thing. We would give information about where to go. They're like, great, another pamphlet. But it's definitely not something to address as the giver. It's instead saying, there's a family with children, and that is something that's like a CPS call if a family has children outdoors panhandling or begging. Very difficult as a person of privilege to not give, and that's been really hard, but it isn't sustainable, and it is more about a power differential than actually helping the family.
That is fascinating and depressing.
Yeah, it is.
There was a family today at Trader Joe's.
Yeah. Giving money especially is not a good response. Generally, I don't know. I'm not gonna say every single family is being exploited, but that is not a sustainable action with the number of programs and resources that also check to make sure people are safe. Probably stop there because it just gets more difficult
I'll
as.
just throw out, I forgot I had these in here too, we were talking about it.
Yeah.
I used to pass them out and I forgot I don't usually carry a person anymore, but I got a whole stack of Sunnyvale Community Services cards, and I actually did, I used, not the average person I saw, but just that I started talking to them, and I felt like I would say, hey, do you know about Sunnyvale Community Services? Share a little bit, and I hand the card. I forgot to just.
And everybody has their point where they just can't. My wife, it's shoes. If the person doesn't have shoes, she's going back to where we left to buy them shoes. It's a thing. It's like, I can't let the person be barefoot. And so everybody has their thing. You got to follow your conscience. But in general, providing a person in that situation money is not a good practice. It doesn't help.
Well, I just really want to say, like, I think that I'm pretty sure the board just not only supports the work that you do, but like would like to deepen it if we can. Like if there's things at the school sites that are needed, like, you know, I know there are a lot of the programs that we've seen for academic recovery, and I know that it's going to show up in our LCAP. I'm sure will be addressed in our LCAP because it has to be. But just, you know, if there are other things that we can do, you know, like working, you know, even working with the Ed Foundation or something, you know, where you have needs, like they did the thing with the TOSAs for equitable outcomes. They did grants for them or things like that. Like if you need squishy toys or something, I don't know what it is, but.
Slime party? You need something from the slime
party, that sounds fun. So, you know, just like, please let us know if there's other things that we can do.
The work of this work happens here, but these people are psychs, are outreach liaisons. That is what is, and principals and APs being diligent. So thank you so much for the attention on this.
Thank you.
I just, hold on, it's not really a question that we like, I don't wanna say rhetorical, I mean, kind of, I think some of the things we talked about are kind of this. But just one, this is like phenomenal what you guys are doing, so thank you. But also, like, as you were sharing all of these things, and like, especially like the story, like the one-on-one, like lots of these students, we are actually making a difference for them, right? So just like the question I wrote as you guys were talking through my tears was, how do we get this level of support for all of our children, right? Because we have a lot of students who aren't gonna qualify for McKinney-Vento, who like maybe have mostly stable housing, but lots of other instabilities in their life. And their life is still very similar to these students, right? And so it's the question we all are asking, right? But it's like, how do we get like the level of support you just described, like how do we get that for like the hundreds and hundreds of students that need that?
That's critical, and we're probably over time, but the boundaries and having a mature, healthy perspective on what it is you do, because there are 100 students at each of the schools here that are not McKinney-Vento students. And if you have a student who doesn't need the services, but you're giving them out of your sense of knowing better than the family, that's how you fix it, is being efficient and really focused and flexible. So you're not bringing a student in for one-on-one counseling that really isn't at a place where that person needs it. That's very difficult, and that's the work that I see happening. So making sure the right students are getting the services is step one. Thank you.
I wanna ask a question about the numbers. So we're talking 59 students as of right now in December, which is like halfway through the year, and it sounds like those 59, because of the policies in place, are going to continue through the rest of the year because regardless if they find housing or not. So just conservatively, we might expect that number to maybe double.
I wouldn't, it's not that good, thank you. It's not that linear. It doesn't look like it'll increase linearly across the year. And Jeremy can help me on this. If a student exits McKinney-Vento and exits Sunnyvale School District, which will occur with some of those 59, that number will ebb and flow according to that, because it's that live document. Could we continue to get an influx? Yes, because we just haven't been down this road before. But in the past, it hasn't been linear across the year. The largest number were at the beginning when we were most focused on new students coming in. So could it go to 120 students? Yes, it could. We don't know yet because we haven't seen this kind of rise.
Thank you.
Sure.
And I think if the social workers and if they're at an emergency shelter, if they're working towards longer term stable housing, a lot of times that's looking for relatives that might live far away, honestly. Like it's just anywhere that's stable, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're on to item 10, review and action, approval of resolution R2314 honoring Bill Wilson for 16 years of dedicated service to the Fremont Union High School District Board of Education. Dr. Gallagher.
Yes, so you all know Bill Wilson. He's 16 years with Fremont, and I think it's appropriate that we honor him just as Naomi honored Jeff. So the resolution is there for your consideration.
And I'll add to that he's having a retirement party on Sunday, and so one of us could go and present it to him. I'm happy to do it just like Naomi did, even though she was the outgoing president. I know Bill a little bit. I think he's just really inspiring as an educator and a board member. So if we approve it, one of us could go do that. It could be Isabel's first new job.
Should I move a motion?
Oh, no. So first, is there any public comment online? Unless you have a public comment? No. Okay, any motion or any clarifying questions or?
I move to approve the resolution R2314 honoring Bill Wilson for 16 years of dedicated service to the Fremont Union High School District Board of Education.
I'll second. Okay, any discussion? Okay, seeing none.
Thank you, Bill,
Yeah.
wherever you are.
Yay. Okay, seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye and the motion passes. We need someone to present the frame resolution at the retirement party on Sunday. Isabel, do you want to do it? Are you available?
What time?
I think it's at 3.
3? Yeah, I can do it. I mean, unless.
I'm gonna go, but
you know that you wanna do.
You guys can join to present it.
Okay,
Okay. Okay, don't want to presume. Okay, we're on to item 10B, approval of 2022-23 first interim fiscal solvency report. Lori Bingo.
Does the clicker work?
We'll find out. I was working harder.
I'll try my best.
Switch that.
Okie dokie, here we go. Yeah, it worked. Okay, I'm presenting to you tonight the 22-23 first interim budget report. These are our major revenue assumptions. I'll go through them one at a time. Our property tax revenue is the major revenue stream in the general fund. It increased 7% over last year, which is approximately a $4.3 million increase. Our LCFF hold harmless remains the same at the 12-13 level of 2.9 million. Our EPA revenues projected at 1.177 million. Parcel tax revenues approximately 1.1 million. Our one-time CARES Act funding, which is part of the governor's coronavirus relief package, is projected at 5.7 million. And this funding is to be used for student classroom support, facility improvements to reduce virus transmission, educational technology, and student social, emotional, and learning support. Based on the latest projection from the County Office of Education, state special education is projected with no COLA. And all federal categorical revenue is projected at the 12-13 level. Our restricted and unrestricted lottery are projected for a combined total of $237 per ADA, which is $1.4 million. And based on the P1 estimate from the county office, our RDA revenue is projected at 4.3 million and our lease revenue is projected at 6 million. So this is a pictorial look at our general fund revenue stream, total revenue budget of 130.4 million. As I said, parcel tax and state aid are the largest portion of the budget at $103.6 million, which is 79.42% of the budget. Parcel tax and EPA are projected for a combined total of 2.3 million, which is 1.74% of the budget. Lease revenue is 6 million for 4.65% of the budget. Our CARES Act revenue is projected at 5.8 for 4.44% of the budget. Federal revenue is projected at 2.2 million, which is 1.73% of the budget. State revenue is 8.5 million, is 6.48% of the budget, and our local revenue is 2 million, excuse me, for 1.54% of the budget. These are the major expenditure assumptions. Certificated FTE, which includes SEA and certificated SCAMP units, has increased 12 FTE for roving substitute teacher FTE since the 22-23 revised budget. Classified FTE, which includes CSEA and classified SCAMP units, has increased 3.25 FTE for paraeducator and custodial FTE. Certificate and classified compensation changes, including step and column increases, as well as negotiated salary schedule increases, are incorporated into the first interim budget. 22-23 STRS rate is projected at 19.1%, which is a 12.1% increase over 21-22. PERS is projected at 25.37%, which is 10.7% increase over 21-22. Based on the 2022 health and welfare rates, United Healthcare rates have increased 5.2% over 2021, and Kaiser has increased 0.005 over 2021. The 2023 health and welfare rates will be incorporated into the second interim budget. And all carryover funds have been incorporated into the budget, which includes categorical and local funds. So this is a picture of the total general fund expenditure budget at $131.5 million. The largest portion is salaries and benefits at $113.1 million, which is approximately 86% of our expenditure budget. $3.1 million is budgeted for books and supplies at 2.9% of the budget. $14.6 million for services and other expenditures, which is 11.1% of the budget. This includes additional program support for child nutrition and state preschool,
the transfer to the Special Reserve Fund for future technology upgrades, and the purchase of instructional software licenses, professional development, as well as contracts to support students' social emotional health. So this is a multi-year overall look at the general fund ratio of revenue to expense. 22-23 revenue is projected at 130.4 million, which is an increase of 6.5 million over 21-22. 22-23 expenses projected at 131.5 million, which is a $15.2 million increase over 21-22. The $15.2 million increase in expenditures over 21-22 is being driven by salary schedule increases, FTE increases, and increase in contributions to other funds and maintenance projects. And based on the assumptions in the 22-23 first interim budget, expense is projected to outpace revenue by $1 million. So this is a multi-year look at the general fund beginning and ending balances. And you can see that the general fund is made up of restricted and unrestricted funding. Unrestricted is pretty self-explanatory. Restricted means they have specific state rules tied to them. For example, Title I, Title II, all the ESSER funds, they have specific guidelines and spending rules. So the 22-23 ending fund balance is projected to increase slightly over the revised budget due in part to an increase in the revenue budget to account for the receipt of one-time funding and the addition of carryover from last year. Salary and benefit savings for vacant positions have been recognized and incorporated into the budget, and these factors combined contribute to the $1.3 million increase in the ending fund balance over revised. So this is a look at our unrestricted reserves, which is a combination of the unrestricted general fund and the special reserve fund 17. The 22-23 projected unrestricted reserves at first interim are slightly higher at $43.3 million than they were in 21-22. But because our expenditures have increased $15.2 million over last year, our reserve balance as a percent of total general fund expenditures has declined by 4.1% over last year. So quickly to wrap up, the unrestricted general fund ending balance is $29.1 million. Special reserve fund ending balance is $14.2 million. Our total unrestricted reserves are 32.9%. And the multi-year projection has positive ending balances and will maintain our basic aid status.
Thank you. Any comments from the public? Please use the raise hand feature now. Okay, seeing none. Board, do we have any clarifying questions? Or do you want to make a motion?
I move approval of the 2022-23 first interim fiscal solvency report.
I second.
Discussion?
Thanks for all the information.
Yeah, it looks great.
Numbers, thank you.
Looks great. Okay, we're ready to vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, the motion passes. Thank you. You're up next for the item C, approval of the 2021-22 Development Impact Fee Annual Report.
Okay, so this is just something really quick that we are mandated by EDCO to report to you. Developer fees are collected by the district for businesses and community members who do expansion on their property. And it's a cooperative effort with the city. So homeowners and business owners are required to pay the district's developer fees and we deposit them in a special fund. So in 21-22, we spent $60,953.13 for our developer fee budget. We spent that money on leasing modular classrooms and project advertising, and we refurbished the playground at Cherry Chase.
Great. Okay. Any questions from the public? Please use the raised hand feature now. Okay, seeing none. Board, any clarifying questions, or would you like to make a motion?
I move to approve the 2021-2022 Development Impact Fee Annual Report.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? Ready to vote? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye and the motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Item 10C, review, discuss, and nominate, if necessary, a candidate for CSBA Delegate Assembly. Dr. Gallagher.
Yes, so last meeting, you nominated Bridget and Isabel for CSB Delegate Assembly. Since then, Nancy asked me to let you know that she would like to be considered. I also understand that perhaps one of the two people that were nominated was not as interested anymore, so that's for you guys. Okay, Isabel, that's right.
Yes, I can do it then next year. I do want to be in legislative action this year.
Okay.
But yeah, I can wait one more year.
Because we're all running against each other. Like other school boards are not gonna vote for two people from Sunnyvale. They just won't. And, Reed and Nancy both went up for it. My first year on the board, there was a lot of discussion about it because Reed was in a role at SCCSB. She was already a delegate and she was saying that, we should just nominate one. And at the time, the board just decided to, anyone from our board who wants to go for it, to just go for it, and we'll just throw our hat in the ring, it's fine. So I'm in support of board members, who really want something, because we have to give a speech to the county association. They have to vote us in. It's super competitive. Like there's people from all around the county who are gonna go for that seat. And by having your name in, even if you don't get it right then, there's a chance you could get on when if there's ever an appointment, if someone steps down. If you don't ever put in your paperwork, it's unlikely they would appoint you. So there's reasons for appointing or for going for it. And if it's your dream to be on delegate assembly, you should do it. But as soon as there's more than one person, you just have to understand that you're really running against your fellow board members. So, and I did tell, just in fairness, I did tell Nancy that this is, I support her doing this, but there is no way to do this remotely. This is not a remote situation, and she understands that very clearly. So if she goes on and she gets elected, she will have to either, go in person or not participate. So, but in general, I feel like it's been positive to support people who want to.
Yeah, well, I think that's what we did last time. We nominated both of you, but I think the paperwork, there's a schedule with timing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because then it's on us. Once the board once it's certified by the clerk and then it's sent to CSBA, then there's paperwork that the person applying has to fill out.
Has to apply to actually.
And you have to get your paperwork in on time, and you have to have your CV updated, and then you have to make a speech. So it's not just like the board appoints you and everyone votes for you, there's more to do. So,
So did we already nominate last time?
Yes,
in the motion, do we need to, if I'm making the motion, I take Isabel off and say.
See, you could just say, I make a motion to change the nomination
Okay.
from Bridget and Isabel to Bridget and Nancy.
Okay. I make a motion to change.
Jesus has.
Just a quick note that because you guys took action last time,
Yes.
everything's electronic now, so there's no paper trail. So what I did was I put Bridget in and I put Isabel in, as that was our nominees.
Yeah, and so if Isabel doesn't complete the paperwork, her nomination will not, her paperwork will not go forward for a vote.
Yeah, but it's already there because it already happened.
But they're already there,
Yeah,
just so you know.
So we just need to nominate Nancy as well.
Okay, so then all I need to do is just, I make a motion to nominate Isabel as.
No, Nancy.
Nancy, sorry, thank you. Nancy, as a candidate for CSB Delegate Assembly.
I second.
Okay, any discussion?
What is delegate assembly?
Okay, so we're gonna go over that at new board member training for SCCSBA, but it is the policy, it's like a policy arm of CSBA. And so people from the county association, they have to elect 12 people. We get kind of 12 votes at this bigger body, and you go before, once in June and then once right attached to the AEC. And you vote for officers, and now they're having a policy incubator, which makes it a lot more cool and interesting.
So
There are,
every region in CSBA like has these delegates, and we'll dive into what that is later.
Yeah. So we currently get 12.
Is that based on
Okay,
population?
It is, yeah, and I think it's gonna go down next time, but this time we still get 12. So, so are we ready to vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion passes. Okay, is there more? No, we're on to review and discussion and to support. So Rachel's time, we're gonna go have.
amend.
Yeah, if you can amend the agenda, move to amend the agenda to have.
So G is going first?
Yes.
Okay, I move to amend the agenda to have item 11G go first, and then we will go in their order. Who, do you remember who seconded the agenda motion?
Isabel.
So do you second my motion, my
Yeah.
amended?
Yes, I second.
Okay.
Oh, okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion passes. Okay, Dr. Dean. Some quick slow
Good
here,
job.
brains
All
are
right,
working.
wonderful. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Joining me this evening is Rachel Bross, our district librarian. And I appreciate her being here. We definitely have partnered in this work. And before jumping into the policies that we have in front of us, I just want to say we're just really trying to make that library experience enriching for our students. And so she definitely has a lot of vision with that. And so some of these policies are coming to be compliant, but they're also trying to be reflective of the practices we want in the district. And for our libraries to be places that are avid on our campuses that excite the students who are there and the families as well. So being a service, a big part of that community vision that we have for all of our school sites. So the first item coming to you is board policy 6163.1, which is with regards to library media centers. And so we've made some basic revisions. I recognize that you all got a version that kind of included a dual information. That was oversight. I apologize for that. But essentially, we're just trying to be compliant with the instructional materials that are in our libraries, having consistency with regards to what's being offered, looking at the prioritization of needs related to different matters and subjects that are going on, and also content going into our libraries. And then a section with regards to operations, trying to be visible and open. And so the policy is just outlining some of those critical aspects that make our libraries there and present for our students. And so this board policy coming for you to recommend, take a look, and discuss details that go along with this policy this evening.
Okay, any public comments, please use the raised hand feature now. Okay, seeing none, board, do you have, oh, this is discussion. Okay. Board, any questions or comments to discuss?
Well, I want to comment about the event this year with the readers that came, the authors that came, and the reading, and it was a great event. And yeah, we're very grateful that you did that. And I hope that it expands.
It was my dream, and you all supported it. It was great. It also happened, and this goes on record, on my 60th birthday. My present to you, bringing these authors in, so I wouldn't think about it. Anyway, and I appreciate you coming to it, because and it was great to see you there and to meet you for the very first time there. And I hope that we can do it again next year.
Oh, yes, I hope. And then you mentioned that you were gonna do one with poetry for the middle schools.
I would like
Looking
to.
forward to that.
We kind of have a different avenue coming up. Am I allowed to talk about that? All right. So in March, we have Varian Johnson coming. I'm allowed to say. Fabulous middle school, I don't know, I mean, yeah, anyway. So Dr. Dean said, it would be great to get somebody to come in around February, March. And I said, oh, I can find you someone, because I stalk these people on Twitter. And that's kind of how the other three came into our lives. And Varian Johnson will be speaking to the 7th and 8th graders, plus have an evening here in this beautiful room to speak to parents about why it's important for everyone to see themselves in the pieces of work. And he has a great message and really well done. And so he's coming to us from Austin, Texas, and super excited that he's going to be here for that. So happy to try to get anybody in that you suggest and at any time. So it's good.
Let's get that on the board calendar.
You said that was a poet in April, you said?
Well, he's actually an author.
An author.
But what Isabel and I spoke about is I currently stalk the poet laureate of the United States. And I know, don't you? And I reached out to her and I said, hey, ever think about speaking to students? And she said, what honorarium can you offer me? And that's where our conversation stopped, because I'm in an awkward position, right? I can get people here, but you have to pay for it. And so if you gave me a budget, I'd be happy to spend it. So a lot of my searching has that way. So in fact, Matt De La Pena had been in my back pocket for a good 5 years. And then finally, we were able to host him here. So I tried to get him, I was in Italy before this, and I tried to get him to come to Italy for a week, and it just never worked. So I was like, hey, what about Sunnyvale? It's like, yeah, I'm in. So anyway, so that's kind of my MO.
Did we give him an honorarium?
I'm sorry?
Did we give him an honorarium?
Oh, he gets paid.
Okay.
It's not an honorarium for him. The poet laureate has to have an honorarium. It's a different way to do it, but so they actually drive the bus. They have a certain price that you have to pay. All authors. Nobody comes for free anymore, so. But.
Well, anything else? I have a comment or question.
Please.
Okay, so when we were going through the packet review and I was looking at this, I was really thinking I was reflecting on your presentation last year, I think that you gave.
2019.
Oh my God.
I know.
So it just seems like yesterday.
I know, I had to look it up.
It was just a blur. So, but I was just thinking about it, and I know we've talked about all the different things, and probably I think Ben and Mike have also filled us in over time about what you're doing. So I would just really like, if not a presentation, then just sort of an update, because even though if the schools are the heart of the community, I really feel like the libraries are the heart of the schools. Even though a lot of work goes on in classrooms, I just really feel that way. And so I'm very interested in, I know that not every school site has a library open after school, and I know that sometimes it's with maybe there's tutoring programs, or maybe there's other stuff, or maybe the librarian isn't available. So I just like to kind of understand, what are we, no matter what school you're in, is there somewhere where kids can go to do their homework after school? And is that the library? And how are we doing on getting our collections of lower Lexile, high interest books, or those weird books that would occasionally get checked out, like smoking or something in them, so they're the weird ones. How is all that going? Because you've been reorganizing it, and you have so many new wonderful librarians, or librarians who've been there a while and who have new programs that they're doing. I think I went to Cumberland and I destroyed their laminating machine helping one time, it's just but I had a great conversation with her. So I just think that you really have a really enthusiastic group of people, and I just like to hear what they're doing, and I don't want to put any pressure on anyone for I'm demanding information, but I'm just excited about what you're doing. I'd love to hear from it?
You're not demanding information.
Okay.
We love to talk about our programs
Yeah.
and we're proud about it. And it's all over the place. But I did, upon that question, like, are libraries open at lunch? Well, I kind of know that, but I put an all call out. And so I created a document that kind of tells us that 8 out of the 10 are open at lunch. Are libraries open after school? Yes, they're open after school because your LRS, who's a classified employee, stays until 4 o'clock. Sometimes it's just for, drop by, nothing formal. Other times it's closed because they're actually doing the work that they need to do to keep the library up to date. Are we refreshing our program, our materials every single day? We do this process where we purchase things and we lead things. I'm trying really hard to talk about budgeting. Consistent budgeting is the way you have a strong library. A librarian or an LRS, a classified employee, has to know that this year I can do the graphic novels because I know next year I'm gonna get money to do nonfiction. So consistent budgeting is kind of my common theme. We meet 5 times a year, and during that time, my job as your district librarian is to train the classified employees on librarianship. Part of the reason why I wanted this policy to be rewritten is that libraries are, they're big in the news right now. And we need to train you board members to what happens if, we need to have a solid policy in place in case we have an issue where we need to do some reconsideration. So I'm training you, I'm training the librarians about librarianship. So it is happening and it's all there, and I'm happy to come back and do my little song and dance. And I really did have to look that up because it was 2019 and it was such a long time ago. And a lot has changed. I mean, you paid for software, so that has unified our library, so I can see what every single school is doing. I know how many checkouts. In fact, today we were just talking about Sora, our ebooks and audiobooks. They're kind of changing the format a little bit. So I went in to see how many checkouts have we had in the last year? Well, it's what did I say? 5,700. Whoa, oh, that's cool. So when you ask those questions, it helps me remember that we are actually moving forward.
So we're going to, I talked to Tasha at the request of one of the board members asked for a sort of a written summary of where we are. And so we're gonna put that together. If there's specific questions that you have, let me know and I'll let Tasha know, and she'll work with Rachel to get those answered for you.
Yeah, and then maybe we wanna put in, I don't know if there's so many things we get each year, but either a yearly or every other year, where she comes in and shares some of the highlights.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I
Okay.
think that'd be great.
And how much you need for those author visits?
Well, actually, it's pretty standard, if you wanna know. Do you wanna know?
Sure.
Okay, so most authors charge between 5,000 and 10,000 to come visit. So Matt, since I've been hounding him for so many years, he dropped it down 2 days for 7,500. But the big expense, and okay, I'm sorry, I'll just take the floor for a second. The big expense and the best part about what happened in the fall
was that you gave books to every student who saw that author. And so purposely, not only was it on my birthday, but having it 1 month into the school year allowed me to distribute the books, purchase the books in the spring, deliver the books in the summer, and then train the teachers on, these are the authors, these are the books, read it, and then you meet your author. That's the most powerful way to have an author come visit, is if the students have read the books and the teachers are excited about that author. So that's the expensive part, are the books.
And he was signing during prior to his talk, and then he gave the talk, but he needed to run. I remember that there was this kid who really wanted to have his book signed, but he was leaving and said, "Oh no, we cannot do it anymore." And he started crying. So he came back, "Well, of course, and let's take a photo."
And Isabel, that was so striking too. But before that, I walked into the auditorium with him, just the two of us, and there was this kid who was by himself, and he said, are you Matt De La Pena? And Matt's like, yeah, I am. This kid goes, I've read all your books. And Matt goes, no, you haven't, because I've written some adult books and you haven't read those yet. And the kid was like, wow. I mean, this conversation was priceless. I mean, and it was just, that whole week was filled with that. It was pretty amazing. Thanks.
Thank
you.
So am I just,
I
So just,
just wanna say your job sounds really cool.
Sounds really cool.
Come visit anytime.
so my one logistical is just that, like, there was those two option thing, do we, like, because I'm assuming we're gonna put it onto consensus, is there anything that we need to, like,
Yeah, we did send an updated version.
we sent you all the updated version.
Yeah, and so that's the one that we're proposing here, which there's no fees for late, but they're for damaged or lost materials. There may be a fee. There's not always a fee, but it's based upon the circumstances of that particular situation.
Okay, yeah, I think, thank you very much. But sorry, I'm running over my own stuff here, I just.
okay, so if we're not gonna be finished within 10 minutes, then I need a pause.
Sure, okay,
Do we think everything else is gonna be fast, or should we do it?
yeah,
It's kind of up to you guys.
okay,
I think so.
I think so, I don't, well,
Okay, so you're referring to that to consent, is that right?
yes, let's bring it,
Okay.
we're okay bringing, board, we're okay bringing that back on consent next time?
Okay.
Yes. Yes, okay, that's the plan. Okay, we're gonna go back up in the thing to review and discuss charter school oversight.
Okay, so this is a brand new policy developed by CSBA, their recommendation. And of course, we don't have charter schools, but the best practice would be to have a policy to guide the oversight of charter schools that complies with the latest law. So that's what this policy does.
Okay, is there any member of the public who'd like to comment on this item? Please use the raised hand feature now. Okay, seeing none, board, any items for discussion, questions? Good. Consent it is.
Okay.
Okay, charter school and renewal?
Yep, this is a similar policy, also brand new for us. Again, we don't have any charter schools, but if we were to have charter schools, it's better to have this in place before consideration of a charter school. So this is for your consideration.
Well, we have
as well.
Summit, right?
That's not our charter
But
school.
it's not our own.
Right.
I see what you're saying. Okay.
It's a county charter school.
Any member of the public who would like to comment on this, please use the raised hand feature now. Okay, seeing none, board discussion? We're good with this. Okay, bring it back on consent. Item C, review and discuss policy 131.2, complaints concerning instructional materials. Dr. Dean.
Before jumping into this particular policy, I do want to acknowledge that Alka, who is our education materials technician, has been listening in. So I just wanted to acknowledge the work that she's done and supported with the work in our libraries and just making them the places that we want them to be. So I just wanted to kind of share that because she's been listening in and we're all trying to learn together for that. So thank you, Alka. With policy 1312, this is in alignment with our goals of trying to, again, be sure that books have the richness in the libraries that we're seeking. And so a part of that process is to be sure that when people have things that they think should be in our libraries or things that they have a challenge about, maybe things that are present, that we have a systematic way by which to address those particular issues. And so, so we're bringing this forward for discussion with regards to that process. And then by solidifying that, then that also helps us to do a better job of supporting our library resource specialists and our site administrators if potential issues come up on how we would address that and be sure that we're having equitable processes with regards to instructional materials.
Okay, if there's a member of the public who'd like to comment on this, please use the raised hand feature now. Okay, seeing none, board discussion? So when it says, we'll consider the school district's philosophy, that would include our interests around anti-racism, equity,
Yes.
women's rights.
Yes.
Human,
Yeah,
gay,
diversity
lesbian
and
rights.
culture, yes, yes.
Okay. Like all our other excellent policies.
That is
Okay.
correct.
Okay, great. Board, are we okay bringing this back on consent?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, great. That's the plan. Sorry, I have to get back to my next thing. 11D, electronic signatures, Dr. Gallagher.
Another new policy, and I want to thank Jesus for pushing these through and keeping us current. This one reflects the reality that we now use electronic signatures, which actually I was in a training on that, and they're actually more secure than a wet signature, if you think about it, the way it works. So this provides the authorization for us to use that and brings us up to date with all the laws around it.
Okay, any member of the public who'd like to speak on this item, please use the raised hand feature now. Nope, seeing none, board discussion?
So does this like grandfather in electronic signatures that have been done before this adoption?
Yeah, they didn't need to be grandfathered in, but it just sort of sets up I'm not thinking of the right words right
It kind of
now.
solidifies what we are practice.
Thank you, that's what I was saying.
Okay.
That was.
Everyone's looking at the
Wasn't me.
Okay.
The machine shutting down, it's gonna go.
We're almost there.
Okay, did I already ask for public comment?
Yes.
I don't remember, I'm just like, I got distracted by the noise. I don't know.
You did it.
I did, okay, great. Are we okay bringing this back on consent? Electronic signatures is yes, okay. Item E is review and discuss board policy regarding civil and legal rights.
Okay, this is an updated policy. There was a court decision, and so this reflects that court decision regarding an employee's free exercise of speech and free speech rights, and also has to do with the types of retaliations that are prohibited when an employee is acting solely to protect a student engaged in conduct authorized by the Education Code regarding free speech.
Okay, any member of the public who'd like to comment on this, please use the raised hand feature now. Okay, seeing none, board discussion? So this particular one, my question on this, like, so the court case that's mentioned, the coach was on the 50-yard line at halftime, so the argument was, well, he was leading prayer out on the football field, and the whole team was doing it, probably except, one reluctant kid or something, but like all the stands were participating, everyone was participating, and he was out there on the 50-yard line, and the argument was, well, because it was halftime, it was his free time, and he wasn't actively coaching then. So like, I'm not clear on how this is, like, how does this updated policy reflect that decision, like either
That's not something I would know. I mean, like, I can't make a legal analysis of that.
No, okay,
Yeah,
so just how has it changed from before, like, because it cites the court case, so I'm just wondering like how it's changing things for our employees.
I'd have to go back and look.
Okay.
This hour.
Okay. So I like it that we don't want to discriminate against anybody,
Right.
what they do on their own free time.
Right.
I was just wondering like if this in some way protects us from someone who says, well, I'm on my lunch break, so me doing this isn't a problem because it's
Yeah,
my free time.
my sense is when I read it is that it rode a nice path in the middle. I was gonna say like straddled the line, but rode a nice path of reasonableness while still understanding that employees have right of free expression.
Okay,
Well, and I feel like this piece was like a new piece, there's lots of new pieces, but I think this is kind of the summary, right? Employees may engage in private personal activities, including the exercise of their religious, political, cultural, social, or other beliefs or activities during personal time, including when employees are not on duty or engaged in the supervision or instruction of students. And there's more stuff, I feel like that's kind of.
I think that's the heart of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then so you could argue whether or not, in that case, that coach was on duty,
right,
but that's not
And
for
that
us to
goes to the
decide.
lawyers, legalese.
Yeah.
right, okay. All right,
Thank you,
so are we okay bringing it back on consent? Consent? Yes, okay, we say yes.
Okay.
Consent it is. All right, next item is, sorry, my thing is loading, so
Review and discuss,
what's F?
review and discuss board policy.
Yes, administering medication, this is fentanyl and others, right? And supervising medication, Dr. Dean?
Yes, just bringing an updated policy with regards to us administering medication, kind of spelling out cannabis use or not use on the campus, and then with regards to the FER pandemic and everything else that's going on, just to be sure that we have what we need on our campuses in the event of emergency, both for our students as well as the visitors to our campuses, both the elementary and middle schools. So just updated policies that reflect our practices and being prepared in the event of a crisis or an emergency.
Great, any member of the public who'd like to comment on this item, please use the raise hand feature now. See none, board, any comments, questions? Okay, let's bring it back on consent, sounds good. We are on to the consent agenda. I have a bunch of stuff to say on that. Just as a prelude to it, not necessarily talking about it. Any item on the consent agenda is subject to review and discussion prior to being approved by the board. If necessary, any items may be removed for separate action. The public may address the board regarding any items on the consent agenda. Is there any member of the public who would wish to speak on this item? Please use the raised hand feature now. Okay, board, would any of you like to pull an item for separate consideration or vote? I kind of would like to pull two, honestly. For a very quick discussion, quick comments. I'm sorry.
Do it fast, please.
Okay, I'd like to pull item J and item M to discuss just briefly the AT&T mobility agreement and the adoption of the comprehensive school safety plans. I just wanna.
So then Jesus, I make a motion to approve all the rest of them and we do that first, right? So M and J?
Yes, J and M.
I move approval of the consent agenda minus M and J.
I second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Chair Woodside, the motion passes. Okay, for item J, for the AT&T mobility agreement, co-locating Dish, I understand we probably have to do this, right, Brent? Yeah, we probably have to do this because it's part of our contract, but I just wanted to ask the question because if we do co-locate the Dish thing on there, would their term expire when the other lease is up, or is that thing there forever?
No, it expired. No.
And this is at Bishop, there's a AT&T pole there.
I think it was on.
Maybe that was that noise.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It would go along with the lease with Singular AT&T. So the Dish would be on the same lease as theirs and would expire the same time as theirs.
Okay, and that lease is up for renewal in 2025?
2023, fall
20.
2023.
Fall 2023. Okay, so board, just so you know, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because many years ago at Cherry Chase, there was a big discussion because AT&T wanted to put one at SMS and the community revolted and basically said, it's not safe. I understand this was a long time ago, there may be new data, I'm not really sure, but it seems like it might be something we'd want to look at for environmental equity issue because there's one in Bethel and there's not one in the other neighborhood where they put up a fight about it. So that was my only thought on that. So I just had those clarifying questions. That's all I wanted to know.
Yeah, and I can bring back any information that Singular and AT&T give me over the next couple weeks to the next board meeting.
Great, or just, well, the lease is up
Okay.
as well. It's totally fine.
Okay.
Okay, and then the other one was the adoption of comprehensive.
We need to vote on that one.
Oh, okay. All right, all those in favor?
We gotta make a motion.
Okay.
I move approval of the AT&T mobility agreement with Sunnyvale School District.
A second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, the motion passes. And then the other one, the adoption of the comprehensive school safety plans for 22 and 23. Just to clarify, it seemed like the school safety plans were great. However, some of the best practices that I've been hearing about from as far as like the research around traumatizing children with safety drills that are really the shooter drills, honestly. There's an idea that maybe best practices would be to have for the children participating would be a safety day instead of saying this is our active, code red, active shooter drill day, and all the parents and the kids are thinking of Uvalde or something, right? Like instead of talking about it that way, having the child training be less specific possibly and more about following directions, and then continue to have the more specific training with the adults. And so I just was making that comment. I'd like that to be considered for the next cycle, whatever that is. I think it was in Marin County where that was. So is that okay?
We can consider that.
Okay, so all those in favor, or actually, can we have a motion for passing item?
I move approval of the adoption of the comprehensive school safety plans for 2022 and 2023.
A second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the chair votes aye. Item 13 is information agenda. There's actions by the board. Thank you, Dr. Gallagher. Item 14, future meetings and adjournment. Our next meeting will be Thursday, January 12th at 6 p.m. at the DO. Happy holidays to all. Meetings adjourned 9:38 p.m. Thanks.
Thank you, Fabiola. Thank you, Francis.
She's like,
Let's have a Merry Christmas.